Mic check. Everything looks good there. Welcome to the channel, guys. This is Reliable Rudy. Before we go into any analysis, we're about to get the open for the stock market today. You guys know I'm not a licensed financial advisor. Everything in this live stream is me simply sharing my opinion, nothing more, nothing less. Trying to give you guys some entertainment. And here's the open. We'll be watching NVAX. In all honesty, I'm expecting some rejection. I seen in the pre-market we did get up into some of the 60s was the high I seen. Had we seen that, I would have expected continuation. But opening up inside of this range, I mean, obviously very early in the day. But I'm looking for some sort of retest back down to this neckline where I'm going to reload back into the position. We still have about 70% of the position, so a really good mover, really fun name to work yesterday. We had trimmed off about 25 to 30%, with my best fill coming in at 845s. We actually tried getting 855s, but if it's able to push this sort of downtrend and able to get over top of these 50s today, that is going to be something that we kind of just let work for us. We're not going to rush to getting any more fills around this range. Maybe we could respect this level. But to some of the other title names real quick, that is NVAX. We got VALE on there, which VALE really coming up towards this neckline. So if this wants to retrace back in towards this gap, we have a couple different areas that we can think about with VALE. And especially the gap fill here at 1230s. We've said multiple times, this is the last time we're adjusting this uptrend. If we go over to this daily chart, we said this is the last time we are adjusting this. If we get some sort of gap down, we are going to start setting up for support. So we'll be looking for 1150s and possibly this neckline down to 1125s right here, that wicks. So that's going to be the area that we wait for. Looking around elsewhere, let's just get a look at the top movers for the day and try and get a feel for anything new that we can think about playing. We took live ads, averaged up on the Devon Energy position. BAC still trying to hold. We really want to get 2850s. Play this like it's a trend line right here. GM, we had an ad off of 3302 yesterday as it gapped up. We didn't buy the gap. We waited for it to come on in back to that 33 level, and we tried it for some shares, and it closed decent, but still very weak on strength. What's the other title name? We got Warner Bros. Warner Bros. We never got that 1250 fill. Tapped 1250 twice. We can go back to the 15-minute. Taps 1250 twice. We did get a 1253, or maybe it was a 54. As it was approaching, we just market ordered in and then put those 1250s in right there. So looking at Warner Bros, it is trying to take out this high. So from this wick top, you see 1, 2, 3 candles of consolidation right back into the initial sort of flat top break. It was building this flat top right here and then took it out, tested up to 75s, trades back in. We get an open price right at that flat top again, and now a nice open to the day. A lot of time left in this candle, so is this going to be a washout top? I wouldn't say that this means much, but we do have a nice clean downtrend that got broken, and this uptrend is continuing to hold right here. You can see it's maybe setting up some sort of bear flag, so I'm looking for this to get discredited and the buyers to overwhelm the selling pressure or short pressure from this uptrend and break back up, give me a new reclaim of positive strength. So that's what we're going for there. Other than that's the update for today. We got a couple trend line names. I wrote down 3 sticky notes of tickers that we have to go take a look at, but for right now, let's just take a look at, and BGLC was definitely going to be one of those names that we wrote down as we said, hey, this is holding a nice uptrend. So dealing with this sort of flat top here at 114s, does it need to pull back in, and is it something that is worth trying right here? And the big thing that I like about it is that if just looking at this very first move to the upside, you can see we pull back in. 702 buyers were there. It gives one more leg down, and this 786 ends up holding. We get a push, and it's trying to build this flat top right here, but also has a decent trend line. You have a little bit of a breakdown of that trend line right there. But look at the coil that it put throughout the day. And this was one we said yesterday. We seen the action off of the 702. Boom. This is also the 702 of this little short pop. If I were to put this pop in right there, you can see wicking into that 702. Uh, but a nice coil, and early in the day, 30K in volume for the first 5 minutes. Maybe not the most, so we can give it a little bit of time. But that is a name that I would say worth watching if you're looking on taking a day trade. This is one that I'll be keeping an eye on for sure. Is it going to be able to hold this sort of uptrend and then break over these highs? If it is, I think you have some clear outs to this sort of flat bottom break up at the 180s. That is a very good return if you can get 180s to print. But given that washout top early, is it going to have gap fill buyers here off 105s? It's tough to say, but all in all, I am going to keep my eyes on this one. We'll start with the first sticky note name. We'll go the INPX, since I don't really see anything going too crazy. Trying to hold, it sets a nice green candle to end the day, pulling right back in. Is there going to be anything there? I'm not sure. MKFG, we've seen that it was gapping up. We wanted it to open flat around these 125s, but looking at the daily chart for this, tight descending channel, is it going to be something that can hold? Yeah, it's tough to say. Back at NVAX, it did get as high as 60s. So it's kind of showing a little bit of rejection. Maybe this can be adjusted sort of like that. I'm just going to get all those points of contact in right there. And looking at it from this point of view, I'd say, is that going to be a rejection of that high? So maybe we could have been on the bid here at 860s, or the ask at 860s, excuse me. But it's all right. Another thing that I do like taking a look at is end phase was just in those 120s. I want to see end phase in those 120s. I want to see another leg down, and that is where we're gonna think about it in these 127.50s, the 126.50s. GM continuing to show this little U-shaped pattern. I'm sure there's some sort of trend line that's trying to be formed right here, but I'm very happy with the shares that we've built for the name as of right now. What other names up here did we write down? We have nothing up here for the top movers as of right now. Path was one of the names that we wrote down. You can probably guess why. I put a wick down towards this longer term trend line. Catching a little bit of a bid, so I'm actually looking to see it a little bit of rejection and the strength as the price falls back down to this trend line, leading into before earnings. If it does happen, I want to see this strength kind of continue and flatten over, and then reclaim and give me that positive break. So path. I believe this is going to be a name that we are possibly going to try. Now that it showed me a little bit of buying pressure off this longer term trend line, or at least over the course of 2023, dating back to November, it showed me action here. If this wants to roll over and test back into like 1450, I think that's where we're going to try and start playing the long for possible swing trade. But I think path is a really good look. HPQ, we are looking long term on HPQ. I want to see rejection of this level. Close to that middle ground, but earnings are coming up. But I'd say this is a monster trend line. It showed action off that trend line, so if it wants to pull back in to this area, and it was also a gap fill. Filled the gap, gives a false break to the downside, now catching a little bit of a bid, along with, a lot of other names are temporarily catching a small bid. Uranium miners ETF. gapping up, pulling back into the gap fill. I really want to see this name back down at like 36. If we pull this over back to this previous high, and then you also have a gap fill in the middle 35s. I think this is going to be something that I may have waited a little bit long for, but breaking this sort of downtrend right here and respecting this sort of wedge pattern, is this a decisive move? Maybe he needs to pull back in, kind of like how Warner Brothers broke, and not as solidified of a downtrend here. But Warner Brothers broke that downtrend and pulled all the ways back into the long-term trend line. So if that's something that needs to do, we'll keep our eyes on that. And an earnings play for this week is Wolf. WOOF. We want it to just keep falling. If this wants to come down to like 6 flat, we got the earnings pre-market on Thursday. But this is one that I may be thinking about trying a little bit of shares. You can see the descending channel. If it wants to get down into those fives or exhaustive, like 550s, maybe even down the 5 flat. Who knows? I think we may try this, but we want to see it continue some downside pressure. Looking over back at NVAX, you can see, let's go to the 15-minute. Kind of an indecision candle, higher on volume. You got a clear rejection of that. Does it hold these 8s where it gaps up from? That's tough to say. Geo is also another name. It does give a gap up. You have a nice move yesterday. But looking at the daily chart, I'd say it's flirted and hovered around, trying to just hold this 7 level, and it continues to hold 7 very well. I think if it were to show strength to get over 750, I would feel a lot better about the chart set up for a potential continuation over top and maybe a retracement for the move back down, like a 702 retracement. 850s meets up pretty well with that. So that is where we're going to be looking for trims up over 8 for the name. Disney continuing to try and hold this 85 level, really giving the feel like, hey, this is going to end up being a flat bottom break. We have some levels identified to the downside. We have a gap. We have support. We have a gap at 76 that was filled, and then we have a true gap unfilled dating back into 2017, I believe, down here at 71 halves. So that's going to be what we're looking for there. I did see Neo was showing some strength in the pre-market. Opens up right at that downtrend that we have set, and maybe this can be moved up just briefly, kind of like that. But if we go to a 15-minute chart, had it gapped up over top of 1150, I think this could have been something that ripped. So let's see if this can hold some levels right here. If it needs one more leg down, that's something that maybe we can start testing the waters with as a good support level down at 1030s. But if it can break that up, that downtrend, is tight channel to the downside right here, I do think there would be some opportunities here on Neo. So that's one that we've been watching a little bit. But I mean, other than that, I would say we've had some good ads on some of these names. NVAX is trying to hold some strength right here. The volume on this first candle is green and it's continued to be elevated. That was the big story yesterday, is that, finally you see over since August 10th all the ways to August 18th, the volume is just super light. There's a couple small pops in here, but a distinguished difference in the amount of volume in the trading day yesterday. Like I said, it was a very fun name to play. Is it going to continue like that? Who knows? I would say let's get over top of this wick high for the day and go from there. I'd say 880 could be some sort of resistance. If we look at it as a retracement down, you can see that 880 is that last final retracement. So maybe there is some trims that we can have if we get that today. But after that, I mean, there's not too many more plays that we can say, hey, this is going to continue like a retracement. Maybe the full retracement, some levels in 9, but it has a decent flat top that's built up towards that 10 level. So if we can get 10s, we want to make sure we hold that piece for a 10 move. That would be wonderful. I love seeing end phase in these 120s. Given the feel like, hey, this is going to be a flat bottom break, maybe this is support, but if we do see it give up this support down here, I do think that we give some sort of retrace down to the bottom end of this descending channel right here. Probably not perfectly set, it's only over the course of a few trading days. But as of right now, I'd say this could be looked at as a descending channel. And BAC, there's a lot of fears still in that banking, dating back to the events that transpired back in the spring. I think BAC in the 28 to anywhere is a reasonable add to the portfolio. Of course, it's just my opinion. But if I'm able to get 20 in, close to those 28.50s or even 28 flat, it does have a sneaky gap right here at 28.07, so maybe some exhaustive pressure to the downside. I still think it's able to hold some higher lows, where maybe this trend line has some leeway to be set down a little bit, kind of how I adjust the trend line on Vale. Vale, we still haven't had any ads on, but it made a title name today simply because uh, we haven't tried this trend line, but given the gap up showing me that, hey, there is some pressure here that the longs are trying to establish. If it does pull back in into the middle of this anywhere, we're gonna try a few shares, and then we're gonna try the gap and see if there is any true weight to this gap up that we had today. But maybe it pulls back down here and then it ends up giving out the bottoms for all I know. NVAX trying to claim these 850s right here. If I should just go over and see what the tape is looking like here. I don't even have my account opened up yet. A lot of times off that very beginning, unless there's something that I really loved that I looked at the previous day, then I would try something. But right now we're just trying to get a feel for the market, which is normally a reason why I normally don't start live stream until like the first couple candles have been established on a 15-minute. But Invex is claiming these 850s. If it wants to keep running, I think this is going to be something that we can continue to print. Let's be patient for these 875s to 880s, and maybe a little bit in front of 9. But nothing too crazy. We want to make sure that we hold majority of this move or this position for a larger move. As we looking at the daily chart, do have it confirmed. We get a gap up. Doesn't have the weakness to retrace back down to 805. Kind of right at a downtrend. But if it's able to push this with significant volume increase again today, maybe not as much as yesterday. If it matches that volume, I would expect a nice rip, and maybe we can get some of these levels up here towards this 10. You can see the flat top that's kind of built up towards 10, which could be looked at as the initial previous low at 950s. If I just mark this green candle, it's kind of what I've been doing. You have a little bit of a false break to the downside, but shows some pressure to the upside, tries to hold this 950, gives it up, reject, reject, reject. You can see even though it has some trading action above this we'll call it 960, it has never closed above that yet. So up here at 866, I think this is getting close enough to the point where, okay, maybe we can take a small print in front of these 870s. If it wants to get up to this 875, 880, I think it's worthy of getting a few trims right there. Yesterday we are going in terms of 125th of the position, so we can continue trimming 125th the position if it wants to continue a bit to the upside. Continuing the wick into this downtrend we have set though, I'd say the green candle move didn't pull back too far into that green candle, which is nice. So let's see if we can get a true channel break. It's confirmed above the high from yesterday, so a very good look. BGLC, you can see a nice green candle actually gave a close right there. So if this wanted to pull back into like 116, I think personally, it doesn't have much volume. This is the only thing that would keep me away from it. But when I can map out these extensions, these fib tools, and it meets in these levels very clean, maybe I can check and see what the true retracement is for right here. But I would look for this trend line to hold, and if this trend line can hold, I would not be surprised to see some sort of 180 test, and then you also would have some longs looking to probably jump in off that 150 test. So if it ran up to like 180s, rejected this bottom and pulled back into 150, I really think that this could actually show more continuation over those 180s where you have a gap fill up towards 3. So if we're talking about it down here at 124s, you know, I think it's at least worth mentioning that, there's a lot of potential with this type of setup, and I like the setup. We talked about the setup. As it respected that 95 cent, gave a push up, and we said, hey, one flat could easily give you a reasonable return for the name. I would expect some oil to be given a little bit of resistance as oil's given up 80s. Looking at the 15, gives it a little bit of a pump, but trading back into that green move. The big story I'd say is we're expecting this candle to be red on the weekly, but also show some sort of wick as we're wicking into these upper 70s. And then next week will be pullback candle number 3 on the weekly chart. So next week, if we see oil trying to hold like 77s, which is that wick top from July 10th, I don't see a reason why we couldn't punch into some more oil. But even with oil showing this red candle, Devon weekly chart, obviously you see the wicks and sort of trying to build that or that U shape. On the weekly chart, setting up like it wants to give a positive break, but on the daily, holding this level. There is a trend line that we had set sort of like this that we were playing. We were on the bid at 48. When it gapped down to 48.50, we moved that 48 order up to 48.50. Never came in for us, which, it is what it is. But let's go look at NVAX, and I think worthy of maybe putting a trim order off in front of these 870s. So let's go ahead and start, and we'll do 150 trims here until we get to 880, and then we'll do 125th of a trim. Just to truly respect that level. But let's go off of 870s to start. Still wicking into that downtrend though, so by no means is it guaranteed that it's going to get up there. But let's go limit order off of this 870, and after that maybe we'll do another 50th trim off of 75s and go and do a true trim off of those 80s. But showing a wick into that downtrend still. Being above these highs though, is it going to be able to hold these 50s? Even though it's wicked decently right there, we have 8 minutes left on the candle. Plenty of time for buyers to continue coming in off these 50s. Now that it's given up 50s, maybe that kind of discredits what I was saying, but coming on into the 30s as well. So our buyer is going to be able to step on in. We were just getting ready to put that order, and it got very close. But like I said, still a lot of time left in that candle. We're going to give it a chance. We're not going to panic. All in all, if it does show true rejection from this downtrend, I think it's reasonable adds in the middle of this green move right here, also testing back towards the neckline. Our first print on the name actually was a 760 something. And we printed it all the ways up to 846 was the top, 845 was the top print, I believe. Neo, the worst name on here for right now. But is it going to be able to hold some of these support levels? Does it need to come down into these 1025s, maybe 10 flat? But I do think that this is a reasonable setup. You have pretty decent support, a nice tested these lows 3 times, and you also have a previous high meeting up with it. Gives an extension pullback, probably some sort of bull flag consolidation, takes out the highs, holds off that highs before we get a true test up. Got as high as 1620. Gotta say, I like seeing BAC with a 28 right there. Let's see if we can probably set an alert on this name. I really would like to see it kind of give up these lows. So let's just set an alert off at 825s. We're not looking to buy it at 25s, but if it's giving out those lows, we want to see some red engulfing candles come in and test down towards that 28.50. NVAX, like I said, a lot of time left in this candle. good buying pressure off of the middle of this green candle to start. Let's see if it can close above yesterday's body candle and go from there. BGLC showing some continuation, a couple nice green candles. You know, if I was gonna try one, it probably would have been this. We would have been decently in the money to start off. You know, maybe we didn't get the best price, but you know, still would have been 15% in the money. So I should have trusted the sticky note a little bit more. Uh, EDUA, just no volume on this name, so I don't know if. But looking at the daily, a nice slow churn on a positive break, very light volume. Yesterday was only about 400K. But still an alright look there. K-View, we're still being patient with this descending channel. We're going to wait for this dividend to get paid. Maybe we can catch it back down here at these 22s, maybe a little bit lower. But bottom end of this channel, I would say is a reasonable add. The split off from Johnson Johnson. I couldn't remember that the other day on the stream. And PWM, we're still not falling asleep on this name. We really want to get this 550s for our first ad, and then we're going to play that gap. And maybe we have to let it pull back into 5 flat, but high margin company for a new IPO is very rare. So we're going to see if anybody is looking at the same stuff as us. Just taking a glance at the financial statements looks very enticing for a potential. Goes on a run, builds this long developing U formation, and I would like to see after the position maybe it just trades sideways a little bit, and then eventually gives me that gap up, where you know a gap up to the start just slightly above this low, but then test to the original flat bottom break. So I think there's clean outs to be taken right at that 10 flat. Oops. MKFG. You know, slightly negative, but I do think that there is some decent support levels in here and possibly even some sort of trend line. So we are going to keep our eyes on this. It gets as low as 123s yesterday. Volume just isn't quite there. It did have 1.5 million, but for only a $1.20 uh, price, you know, is it anything worth mentioning? But I will say it does have a decent level of support that it had before we got that little breakout and test back up to 230s. But if this is a trend line that can hold, I think there is some potential with this MKFG. Looking at NVAX is still trying to flirt around with this 850 range. Looking at the 15 minute, we have 3 minutes left on this current candle. You know, still elevated in volume. The volume is turning on to the red, but there is indecision. There's selling pressure, there's buying pressure, trying to keep this name elevated. So we'll see what this has in store. Yeah, looking around, there's nothing else that's really just grabbing our attention. I'd say we did have another oil name on here. It's a Silica. We do have a holding in Silica, a little bit below that 11 flat. But looking at the daily, you can see we do like this neckline that's been coiling down to. Strength is negative and rejecting some previous lows. Never was able to show strength to get up to those 1264 gap. But if this is a level that can hold, all it would take is a neckline break here at this 1260, which you know fills the gap, maybe a little bit of rejection, retest at 1250. But if this is building a sort of a U shape off of these 3 candle moves, you can see the descending channel that's trying to fight. And I would say it's probably even more so like a wedge pattern. So if this wedge pattern does push it back down to that 12 flat over the course of the next week or two, I would say you have a legitimate trend line that could be building right here. Profitable company, solid growth on the company as well. You know, year over year numbers are going to be a little bit tough as this is more of the equipment side of oil. But I do think it's a reasonable chart setup, as this trend line has been pretty solid for the name. So um, That's what I would say about that. Vale, we're still looking for some downside pressure on Vale. We're waiting for this to get down at least into the 30s before we think about it today. Other than that, I want to see a 28 in front of BAC where we can feel a little bit more comfortable adding. But end phase really acting like it wants to give up these lows right here. So let's see if this can really break down, and we're right there. So a small wick underneath of that actually, so a new low. I would say if this pulled back up into the 129.25s or 129 flat, I would say it looks like a short. It looks like, hey, we can push this down another $3 where, this is today could be the day where we actually get some fills on end phase. I know we talk about it every single day, and maybe it's not something that interests you, but it is a name that we are looking to punch along. And once we punch along on this, we are going to show some greed. We're not going to be impatient with this name. I like the support level all the ways down to these 106 gap, I believe is where it's at. But let's just go and take a look and make sure, let's mark that in. So I would say even though I'm looking to buy it at these 120s, in the 120s, that's just the kind of average in. We haven't had an average in on this name since the earnings report. But if it does pull down in this 106, I think this is a really good area to think about the long down there. In strength, we've been very patient. We didn't want to punch strength when it was already down here at negative 200 off of not the greatest earnings report. There was some legitimate concerns. If you are very focused on the next earnings report, this probably isn't your name. If you're focused on the earnings report a year or two from now, I would say this is a legitimate name that you can keep your eyes on. We gotta focus on the first earnings report before the next. But depending on your viewpoint or your the length of the investment that you're looking for, maybe this isn't a name for you if you're looking at the next earnings report. Now that we are getting a close of this next 15-minute candle, you can see sort of building that frowny face, maybe a topping little setup right there. So maybe it does need to pull back into to 8. Well, then you're going to have the catalyst of this downtrend. Is that going to continue getting rejected? So let's just see it not even get down to that gap. If I wanted to see the gap get filled, I would have wanted to see it early in the day. But now that I've adjusted this downtrend for just a little bit of a higher high, I don't. If we came down to this gap, I'd expect a rejection of maybe potential head and shoulders. I wouldn't call it that. It can easily just trade sideways and continue to hold 8 before we break out. But if it did pull back into this 760, 750 range, I do think that's a legitimate area where you could think about punching the long. I will say that the second candle did close green. Elevated volume, testing as high as the largest volume candle of yesterday, but clearly some selling pressure up towards that over top of that 850 range. So worth mentioning for sure. Oh, looking at some other names. GSIT. You're like, GSIT? The heck is this guy trading? I just put it on the sticky note just because I actually seen that yesterday was able to break through this wedge pattern we have set. I don't see how any other way that you could have had this set. There was no clear signs of a descending channel. Well, maybe there is if you go from the wick tops right here. But still, it's still really not that parallel. So a couple different ways that you could possibly set this. But I'm going to stick with this and say that, hey, this is probably a wedge pattern. You have some clear rejection wicks right here, but now a slow churn through that. Is it going to be something that can take out and claim 4s, where I'd say 4 is probably going to be some resistance. Could be looked at as it was trying to hold support at 4s, gives it up, one test back up towards 390, and now maybe it needs to test up there again before it gives up the ghost. But a legitimate green move that this had and continuation play, and it's been trading. We haven't really adjusted this wedge pattern. The only reason why it made the sticky note is because yesterday was the first day we truly got a close like significantly above that level. So I did have GSIT on watch, and no NVAX, Novavax. NVAX, giving a nice candle right here. So I'm gonna go back to the same order and probably put that order in for 870s. If we can get this breakout here, we are gonna print 870s, 875s, and 880s. Uh, Oh boy, I gotta make a call. I completely forgot I needed them to get me some equipment for my job today as I was looking at it. So I will be right back. I'm gonna put that in the chat that I will be right back. But I am gonna put this 870 order in. Maybe I need to walk away from it to get that fill. So let's hopefully we can get that fill. Uh, I'm gonna say be right back. Phone call. Be right back. Phone call on the ask at 870 for NVAX. So we'll see if we can get that print. I will be right back, guys. And we are back. I can see we didn't put the luck charm for NVAX yet. Still continuing the wick into those 60s. Significantly higher volume coming in today, even higher than it was yesterday. Which clearly some selling pressure as well. If you go to a minute chart, you can see some of these red candles. You know, it does try and form a neckline here, but is this confirmed lower high? I would say you probably have some sort of ascending channel build, sort of just off of this 1 minute chart for today. Is that going to be a catalyst for a breakout over top of it where we can start seeing some nines print? From that perspective, maybe that could be in the cards for today. Just looking at some of these top movers for today, though, I would say that that BGLC was pure gold right there, as we are starting to see some volume increases right here. A couple back-to-back candles at 250K. Vale gaps up, builds a quick U shape, and now putting in a nice green candle. Does it need to just trade sideways and continue trying to hold these 1250s? I'm probably going to regret not trying to punch in off of some of those 1250s right there, but we'll see how it goes. Looking at GM candle has now officially on the day turned red, but wicking down in back towards this trend line, and also a neckline. It showed some strength to put a wick higher than the high from Monday. Uh, is this going to be a catalyst where is this a catalyst where maybe we could buy some more shares? I don't know if we would. I feel we got the position built that we like, but we will see. DFS, kind of giving up the ghost a little bit, testing these lows on full red engulfing candle. I'd expect this to test back down to this gap fill at 90.25, where we said we'd buy it, but then we also said that, hey, it's got this dividend coming up. Let's see if it's actually going to give up this 90 level, which I'd say is a monster level. Beautiful support level right here. Trying to take advantage of some bad press on the name. So maybe it's the wrong time to start that position. Strength is still fairly weak, but you know, now that it does have this pop up to 94 halves, if it does claim over top of that, it's kind of a neckline break catalyst where, okay, are we going to go retrace up back up to 100, which was a flat bottom break on a news drop as well. Now continuing to look at Disney, I'd say Disney, this 85 level is legit. I'd say this 85 level is legit, but is it a flat bottom break that is setting up where we need to go test down into these lower 80s? Maybe it is. Maybe it is. End phase still kind of wicking a little bit. I'd expect that to test down to the bottom end of this tight channel. Just scrolling through the watch list. Let's see what that path is looking like. Retrace down, filled the gap. Not quite ready there yet though. MRO, it was close to making a sticky note name. I would say, and as long as there isn't some sort of news that's setting up, I would say this trend line is legit enough to attempt for maybe a small position. My average is up in the 44s, 45s. I'm not interested in selling it. I like the valuation of some of those tobacco names, even though, you know, MO might not be the one, but BTI was a name that we were buying last week. Giving a nice little pop. That doesn't mean I'm a genius. I'd say still showing rejection of those previous lows in those 3250s. Didn't quite get there, but if this did come back in down to those low 30s and maybe even into the 20s, I think that is a legitimate long to keep a watch of. BAC, I love seeing that 28 in front of BAC. Let's see it come down. We have that alert set off 75s. Let's see if that wants to come on down into, you know, if it got down to 28 flat, I'd say we are going to be punching long. BGLC up 32% on significant volume increase compared to yesterday. Yesterday's total candle only put up 8 mil. We're already halfway there for that. And already showing the continuation type of setup. Doesn't need the wick back in. And NVAX, let's see if what this high, the high was 67s. Really showing on this fourth candle, like, hey, we got some selling pressure here, but the buyers keep holding it up. You can see the stair step action. If I go to a 5-minute chart, you'll see it a little bit better. Here's your first sort of consolidation, takes out the high, tests of the lows, and now really setting up this flat top that it tested right here. Is it going to be able to break over top? As of right now, not showing it, but you know, even for a 5-minute chart, still got 4 minutes left on this candle. But I would expect really good support off this body candle, which meets up right below 850. So if it pulled back into the middle of this move, like 852, I think that is still a catalyst where we can see this start printing higher. So that 870 is going to be that false, that wick washout top is what I normally call it. But if it gives that washout top, we will print 870s, and if it wants to continue higher, we're going to keep continue to print the levels to the upside. MGFK, MKFG. There it is. I just want to take a look at this. I do think that this has some potential. In terms of the volume is extremely light. It does have a little bit of a pop of volume at the end of the day yesterday, but retracing right back into the close, we are completely flat on the day. Is this a trend line that is going to show any type of weight? Now, I think regardless of how you want to set it, you know, if you want to go through the wick bottoms, okay, you're going to have to pull back down probably to this 110, which was sort of a flat top that tried to hold right here. What the heck? There we go. You break it, you try the hold, doesn't need to pull back in. A couple different ways, but I would say just kind of keeping everything connected. I'd say this is a decent trend line that is held pretty good. So R125 is going to be able to hold. Not a lot of volume coming into it. NVAX showing some rejection, continuing to reject those highs. But continuing the wick into those same areas. Is 850 going to be able to hold for this candle? Mr. Drift, how we doing? Welcome to the stream, brother. I'm doing good. My sleep schedule is all messed up. I did it to myself. But NVAX looks like we are gonna break this sort of channel that we had set. Still trying to wick into these 840s. Yeah, yesterday got done with my job around 4:30, so about 3 hours is what it took. It was a smaller job. I got home, fed the dogs, got some food, uh, played some games for a little bit, debated going to the poker room, ended up not. Turned the Cubs game on, and I was out before the second inning started on the Cubs game. Uh, so I ended up waking up. I took like a 4-hour nap, woke up at like 9:30, 10 o'clock range, and stayed up just kind of just going through the watch list for about 3 hours straight until it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. Tried to go to bed, threw on a TV show, and wasn't able to go to bed. Fell asleep probably around that 3:30 range, got back up. Dogs woke me up at 7, which is a little bit later than what they normally woke me up, so I was able to get some sleep, turned the coffee on, got my first pot of coffee, and, you know, I started looking at the market. It looked like it was going to be a green open, so we were just looking at some stuff, and, you know, in terms of the title names, all the same names of what we've been talking about. They're all on stocks for today. NVAX, you know, VALE. You can see the levels that we have mapped out. We're waiting for 1240s, but we want to get a print. We never respected this trend line, so maybe I'm going to regret not trying it, and I'm probably going to regret not trying it off 1250s as we're getting a neckline break as we speak, starting to fill this gap down from the dividend, paid its dividend, boom, gap down 34 cents and then some. But we've said many times over the last 4 trading days is that this is the last time we're adjusting this trend line. Boom, 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 boom. So not having this trend line set where it's not getting those taps is the only way that this could still be holding a trend line. Uh, but now giving that gap up right up to the start of the gap fill, we wanted to see it retrace down, show some weakness to get down to that area. So like I said, I'm probably going to regret not trying it, but strength still is against the long. So maybe that's a catalyst for some rejection, and we can try and start playing this down here in these 1240s to 1230s. But other than that, I did see Devon caught a nice little bit at the end of the day. We bought some Devon off that 50 level, and 44 cents in the money from that 50 level, nothing to brag about. But it is a positive strength on this Devon. So if this wants to start catching a bid, let's see if it can take out this high at. Let's see if it can claim 51s this week. I'm not looking for it to do it today, this week. But some other names, Warner Bros. We never did get that 1250. We still have that good till cancel order off 1250s. But all in all, man, it tapped 1250s twice, so absolutely unbelievable. We put this good till cancel order in. What was it? What was it when it was trading? This would have been Friday. Friday we put that good till cancel order in. It doesn't trigger us. Comes all the ways back in. We got a 54 fill. We did get the 1254 fill. Was not a very big order, but unbelievable that to put an order in on Friday, to be back there on Monday and not get it filled. So that gives me the feel that if it does come down to 1250, there is a big order there. And when that guy's order fills, my order is not going to be enough to sustain the selling pressure. So I'd look for some sort of wick through this bottom, uh, meeting up these lows. I could see a test into those middle 1245s, but if it gets bought back up quick above those 1250s, I'll feel pretty good. If it starts giving up the ghost a little bit, I would expect a test down to 1225s, which is a support level, maybe even a test down to 12. And maybe thinking about readjusting this trend line also a little bit could be worthy of it, just getting those wick lows right there. I would say it still has a little bit of leeway down to those 40s. So, tough to say. But the other title name, we love seeing BAC with the 28 in front of it. We did average some BAC yesterday around those 29.05s, or maybe it was Friday. I know it was 29.05. Maybe it was yesterday. No, it was Friday. It was Friday. My bad. But we did adjust this trend line. We did adjust it a little bit for a possible. We do have a sneaky gap here at 28. We have a sneaky gap here at 07s. So if it stays inside of that trend line, we're gonna buy both of those areas. But the way we had it set before, we had it where it was just barely tapping that wick, and this is gonna be that 28.50. So if we see 28.50s come on in, that is the next area we're looking to add some BAC. Preferably before this dividend. If it gets close enough to that dividend, we probably won't try it, as we could be thinking potential break of that trend line, and we got to come back down here and test into these 27s, maybe even 26s. All in all, if it really gave up the ghost, this neckline here, looking at 25s, and it does have the gap fill at 24.30s and 23.64s. We've already calculated in that this is a possibility, so it's not like we have super large size on this name, but we did have some good prints. We printed the previous low. We were on the ask at 33s, but we did get a 32.90 print. So we did have two fills to the upside, playing this trend line as was the initial entry. Not that that means that I'm just the best to ever do it. But we did get some prints on the name, and to hit our first reload back in at 29s from that first fill that we had at 31.50s. I would say very, very excited to see this name getting beaten down again. And a lot of people have some fears with the banks. I am okay with this name in particular. There's a lot of reinvested capital to the shareholders through dividend increase, which was 9.1. 9.1111, I believe. And then also, you're getting the increased revenue, the increased EPS year over year, and looking for more continuation. Those are good numbers for a $28 stock, but also buying back a lot of stock too. So as the company's buying back stock, it's decreasing that pie. So that ownership that I have is getting larger and larger quarter after quarter after quarter. So if this needs to fall down to 25s, we're all for it. Sign me up. But looking at NVAX, we have been on the bid. We adjusted this downtrend just off that first wick. We can see the selling pressure in at these 860s. It is setting another high. If it wants to break out, great. We're on the ask at 870s and 880s. This sort of flat top right here. So 870 and 875 will be smaller trims, 150 trims, and not 150 shares, 150th of the initial position that we had, and then we're gonna get a 125th trim off of that 880, and maybe something off a 9 if it really starts going crazy. But we want to make sure we hold a piece for at least that 10. We think that this can test 10. If it doesn't want to test 10, that's fine. If it does break through 10, we think we have some legitimate catalysts for getting up towards that 12 level, and the dream move is sort of this flat bottom break at 16s and 17. So I know you're like, dang, 16, 17, that'd be a healthy move. Yeah, sometimes that's the beauty of buying this trend line. You risk it giving a large gap down through that trend line, but when you get the golden entry, you can get some really exhaustive moves where we're looking at 140% up to that trim window, which would be extraordinary. I would be a very happy camper, let's put it that way. But I mean, other than that, Disney still setting up like it's going to be a flat bottom break. I got to say, Drift hasn't worked to the greatest of what I had intended. But I still think there is some potential for this 85s. But the more it hovers around this 85, the more I think you're right that this flat bottom break could easily come into effect, and we could see this printing 80s before you know it. And then at 80, it's like, okay, if we catch a bid and we start rejecting this flat bottom, boom, before you know it, we could be seeing this down in the low 70s. So it is very possible. We have it identified. Uh, I would say until we see how this 80 level plays out, um, we'll see where it goes from there. But looking at the earnings report, you know, GAAP EPS of negative a quarter, non-GAAP of $1. But still looking at the next quarter, really not any large projections. Year-over-year numbers aren't half bad. But we like the free cash flow in the earnings report. We think it is getting closer, and the margins we're starting to get a little bit better. But still, there's going to be something that needs to change still if we're going to get back to those 2014 to 2018 margins. It's just not there yet. It hasn't. It's getting closer, but it's taking its sweet time to get there. So, are these 85s going to be able to hold up? I don't know. I do think it is a reasonable support level. Well, like I said, time's going to tell, and I think this 85 level, seeing how it's going to play out, I'd love to see it just start printing up at the above these 87s, which is the wick top right here, wick tops here, wick tops here. So if it gets over those 87s, I'd feel a lot better. But until then, I would say the shorts probably have it right. But that isn't going to get me to sell. Even if this breaks down this level, I'm just going to let it breathe. Wait for your strength. I'd imagine if the support level gives up, you're going to see your strength shoot way down. But you can see even on the commodity, it's trying to set higher lows, starting to give a little bit of a curl. So if it can discredit this bear flag right here, where here's your pull for the bear flag, 1, 2, 3. This is day number 3 for green candles right now. If it's building this sort of frowny phase, that's setting up the flat bottom. But if it discredits it, I think that 87 level is where you're going to have some people that are playing this like a bear flag potentially get stopped out. So that is for today. We had one sticky note name for a legitimate day trade that we were thinking about, and I'll show you why. Here's the catalyst, and you know, given a nice pop, we were watching it right off the open as it was one of the top movers. But you can see the flat top that built here around this 115. But the catalyst of why we really liked it is because we said, hey, even though it's a little bit, it has a candle below it, it's a legitimate uptrend that it's trying to hold and it's coiling to it. Another reason is that 702 and 786 held like a glove. You can see the first contact of the 782 or the 702 was the open, catches a nice bid, retraces back down to the 786 at 85 cents and holds like a glove. This was another open of Monday, and it catches a nice bid, and that's where the coil started. And if we are looking at it as some sort of retracement from this perspective, we are at that top retracement right there. So if this pulls back in to this trend line that we had set and test back at this 110 to 115, we are going to try it, and maybe it's not going to get there. Maybe it only gets down to 120s. But a couple different full retracements to the downside and to the upside to acknowledge. So which way is this going to pan out? We think that if it can break over top of these 150s, that could be a catalyst for a test of these 180s right here, which is the flat bottom, gives a wick towards it, gives a wick towards it. Maybe it rejects it a little bit right here, but if it shows that strength up to 180s, I'd look for a pullback back to those 150s, where if it started building a U shape and broke these 180s, we think that this could easily print up to the gap at 3. It would have to work through some levels. We'd have some easy outs here at these 240s for sure, and maybe these lows here off of 2 flat. But you know, a 50 penny move if you got it off these 150s. That 2 flat, there's your 2 flat, 34%. If you got that 3 move, looking at 100% there. That's the update. I mean, I don't know what else I can offer. That's everything that I really liked. We did have some sticky note names down, and Path and HPQ are two new ones that are gonna be getting pretty close, and both of them are kind of similar. I'll show you the catalyst form. You can see that trend line already, but we're only on a 15-minute chart. But you can see from November, pop catches a bid higher low, runs up, sets a channel. There's the channel that we have set, double top into the top end, pulls all the ways back down to the trend line, all the ways back up to the top end of the channel, and now kind of a 1 2 3, or a 1 2 3. Now we're rejecting the bottom of wave 1. Are we going to see a true wave 5 come in and crack this trend line? So that's a catalyst that I think it's going to test back down to this 14, these lower 14s. But if it starts confirming that higher low off of this trend line, it could be a potential earnings play. But just looking at strength, here's your negative break. It tries to hold that middle ground, sets a confirmed lower high that I would say probably is a downtrend. And you probably have some sort of catalyst for a descending channel. Meets up beautifully, right? Well, now we get that negative break. Boom, we're rejecting the levels on the way to the downside. If this can show strength and push even back up to the these previous lows right here, you can see tries the hold, tries the hold, tries the hold, breaks it, rejects it. I would say clear outs in from 16 to 1650. So if we can get clear outs there, if it gets any higher, we can respect the downtrend at 17. And if it gets higher than that, top end of the channel is up in those 20s. So we do think there is some potential here with Path, and you know, not just slightly positive earnings, but on a gap basis, still not positive. On a non-gap, they reported positive, It's just not quite there yet. So for a company to be on the brink of that profitability, not positive, I meant to say profitability. I would say that this is a name with high margins. If we were to, I can go pull over some financials, but a high margin business. So anytime you're dealing with a high margin business, there it is going to attract some attention, at least for me. But Path is on watch. I would say Geo also on watch. Back down towards this 7 range. This 7 level is starting to look more and more like a flat bottom break. Where if it does start breaking these 7s, you know, you do have some support down here at these in these 6s, but it's like, man, do we need to pull back down all the way to 5 before this catches a bid? Maybe we do. But looking elsewhere, the other name, this is going to be a long-term position for me, is HPQ. HPQ more defined, but you can see this is a legitimate trend line right here. We were talking about HPQ, and we had a small position and still hold the small position that we have. We only had one trim on the name up at 33.50s, but small position. But we played this flat top and we said, hey, this is a nut up or shut up candle. I think we started it around those 31s and right back into these 31s, but kind of of the same thing as Path. We're catching a small bid off of this trend line. If we see rejection, it has some clear resistance built up here at 32. That flat bottom break, boom, even gives a test and fills that gap. So we like that it filled that gap as well. But if it continues holding this trend line, we think this is a reasonable long, as there's been a lot of capital reinvested for those shareholders. You looking at the earnings report, we went back and looked at it. We said, hey, gap EPS over $1 for a $30 stock, buying back a ton of shares, increasing the dividends as well, I believe. Where's the dividend increase? I could have sworn. Yep, small dividend increase of 1.50 cents. Okay, isn't the greatest, but we think that there's a lot of room for it to continue increasing that dividend. But also getting in before the earnings report and the dividend, we're expecting to see shares bought back by the company in this earnings report. So it is an earnings report that I'm okay buying into. If on the earnings report we get a gap down, I'm not going to have too much size as it is going to be an earnings play, but I will say in these upper 20s, you have a neckline and you have a couple gaps. So if we do see a large gap down from this earnings report, I'm going to look at it as opportunity to build a position into a legitimate company. But obviously, the channel that we have set, this could easily pull back into the low 20s. Just the amount of shares that they've bought back over the course of the last, 4 or 5 years. I just don't know if I could put faith in it getting down to these 20s. So I just want to try and get my position started for maybe a test of an all-time high break where you could see this printing up close to 50. If we're talking about it up at 50 for a long-term investment, that is music to my ears. And NVAX, oh my gosh, I can't believe NVAX didn't break down those 50s. It looked like all hell was about to break loose, but still trading inside of this channel. You can see, mm, 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 mm. Talk about resilience. And it looks like we are going to break this flat top. This looks very bullish. But yesterday we said that the volume was increasing. How about this volume to open off the day? Huh? Huh? You know what I'm saying, Drift? And there's a 66 print. I believe 67 is the high of the day. Sure is. Uh, looking as bullish as possible right here. Probably going to wick into the level a little bit. There is selling pressure there. Let's go pull up the tape here. I was on a phone call. It got me logged out of my portfolio. So let's log back in. But this is looking pretty damn bullish if you ask me. The only name that we haven't really talked about is Baba. It gives a nice gap up, retraces all the ways back in. Is there some sort of trend line here? I would say so, as it has a fairly parallel channel on top of that. A couple false breaks at the top end. But if this trend line gives up, we have that protection of that trend line, the neckline, and the gap filled to the downside. As crazy as it may sound, we are going to be buying some Bobski if it gets down to these middle 80s or where that neckline is. And I have the ETF picked out. It's really not the greatest ETF in terms of volume, but it's a Franklin COCH, Franklin FTSE China ETF. You get 50 companies on top of it. But we have, you've heard me talk about the FXI, the China Large Cap ETF. Your expense ratio is a 0.8. So I'm paying a premium to buy this ETF, which is all right. But looking at the Franklin, the dividend is about the same, but this is a 0.19. But you can see the volume is just super light on this ETF. Yesterday's volume was 13K. But this is going to be an ETF that we're going to start building into just because I like that expense ratio a lot better. I feel my positions in Tencent, Baba, and JD are where I like them. Maybe could think about selling some of that Baba at the right time to shorten down that position a little bit. But this is the ETF that I'm probably going to be playing. If I look at it as a retracement, you can see top move, bottom move. Trying to hold this 618, so probably not a perfect fib tool, with a light volume like this. I would say down at 1650 and then playing that gap and then your last retracement. I think this is a reasonable long. So if we see some of these Chinese ADRs continue to get hit, I'm going to be very interested in building a legitimate long-term position down here from 15s to 16s. I'm aware it's light volume, but I like the broad exposure of building into an ETF for China that sort of mitigates some risk as well compared to just going with a sole ADR. Holy buckets! We said it was getting ready. Whoo! Let's go take a piece off. Hold on. Let's go take off that 125th trim here. And it looks like it is going to keep pumping. So let's go get a register rung here. And let's take off 125th like we said we were. We're not even going to care if it sold off just a little bit. But let's take a print there. Sheesh. Talk about a move. That is the candle that we were saying looked extremely bullish. So ringing the register there, I'm looking for more continuation. If you go back to the very first candle we said, or maybe it was the second candle when we put this channel, we said that, hey, a tight channel like this, and we set it off of the 1 minute, believe it or not. You can see the respect of the downtrend, and boom, a nice green engulfing on huge volume. We said that this is a catalyst. If it broke this channel, we could see it push 9 today. And here we are looking extremely bullish. So let's go off in front of 9s. I would expect it to push 9s almost, but here's your 9, which is some of these low wicks when it gives up the ghost a little bit. So let's go right off of 9s. And maybe we'll go a couple pennies in front of it. Let's go at 898. 898, we're gonna go back to those 150 trims. And we're gonna go 898. So we'll see if that can print for us. We think that it can. Man, Drift, can you imagine how pissed I would be if we got stopped out down here and just had a tight stop right underneath 7? Oh, whoo, boy. Oh, man, I would have been pissed. Oh, it tapped 98s right there. Let's see if we got that fill. Oh, no, we didn't. We're going to get that fill. We're pretty confident we're going to get that fill. Just going to take a little bit of time, but tapped it. It tapped it. We have the order out there. We did not get that fill. But have a day, NVAX. That is what we like to see. Yes, sir. Oh my gosh, HKD. Top mover on the day. Look at that pump. Some legitimate volume coming in. What's this daily chart looking like? Oh, it looks like crap. Looks like crap. I mean, obviously the candle today doesn't look that bad. 4 million in volume, a reasonable increase already. But it looks like crap. This is not what I wanted to see. But BGLC showing a wick up to that, towards that 150 level. And talk about a potential nice increase in volume. And what I like about the volume is boom, boom. The top two candles is nice increase. Where this first candle kind of just put it on the map. Closing right there was a very good sign. But now wicking into the middle of this green move. Oh man, this is really going to put us to the test as that first pullback candle has a little wick of buying. Well, this candle with a minute 30 left, that is significant buying pressure. And let's just go and take a look and see how much of that was in 4 consecutive minutes of, a little bit of elevated volume. Not out of the water yet, but I'd say this 125 level could be worth a look. Which is my 21 that's meeting up right there. NVAX, are we going to give that test a 9? And there, oh no, my bad. I thought it was a full green engulfing candle. It wasn't. My bad. I'm just a wee bit excited today, Drift. When I get this, oh man, that is a nice pump. We really think that we can hit this name for a lot higher. Just give it like a couple weeks, and we could be printing this name over 10s easily. Easily printing this over 10s. The only thing that I'd say is had I just trusted that 7 flat area. It was a monster level. We had a beautiful trend line, all kinds of built-in support off that 7. We could have easily hammered that 7. And 895's coming on in. Let's see this print. Come on. There's 89s, there's 99s. Ring the register. Right through 9, blasting through it. That is fine. That is fine. Keep going. So up towards these 25s, we're going to go right off 25s for our next level. Might need to pull back in down to this flat top, but if this can get that continuation, which look at this volume. That is legitimate volume. That is what we wanted to see in terms of our shorts starting to exit this position. Are people having their outs that are punched in short? Are they getting hammered? I love it, Drift. I love it. I'm so hyped right now. Let's see this candle match an equal size candle right here. If we get an equal size candle match up right here, that was a 5.5% move. 5.5% move puts us up to 950s. Let's see an equal size candle come on in and that volume even exceed higher. Burn them. Burn them. That's a new high on this candle. Burn them. 925s, we're going to get ready. 150 trim. We're going to keep trimming some levels to the upside here. 150th, we don't want to get too exhaustive on the selling pressure here. But still over 60% of the position. Let's go in front of 20s. Let's go 918 for a 50th trim. We think that can print, and then we'll go 925s off flat. So let's see if these 918s can print. Ooh, that is a nice move. Let's see this candle keeps showing that continuation. 916s, come on, baby, give me a print. Give me a print here. Ooh, I love seeing end phase in those 20s, and this is actually given that breakdown. We said, hey, this is looking like a flat bottom break. Goes into, we said on the live stream, look for a test up to 129. Look for that test up to 129. Beautiful, beautiful. Oh man, I should go. I should go and start just shorting stuff, dude. The callouts that I have, and I'm not saying that I'm the best at it, but some callouts that I have shorting individual charts right here, like that's an easy scalp of $3 right there. But this looks so good down here at these 120 for a test down to the bottom end of this channel. We think that we can get that. I think we are going to be buying some end phase today. We're going to let it breathe a little bit. Strength on the 15 is not there, but we think that we can print this name. NVAX 916, 918s. Can we see 919s print? There we go. Ring the register. Ring the register again. All the ways to the upside. Let's do another 50th trim right off those 25s now. 925 flat. Let's go for it. This will put us exactly at 60% of the position. If we can get that fill, come on. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Give me that print. Give me that print. 23s. Full green engulfing candle. What did we say? We were looking for this to match the same exact size as this candle. It's looking more possible now. There's 24s. There's 24s. Let's go see what that size is looking like on the tape. There's 25s. Did we get that print off 25s here? Let's go take a look. Whoo, no we didn't. There we did. Ringing the register again off 25s. Let's go. Now we're going to be patient. The only thing that we really have left right here, we have some 30s. We're not going to respect those. But top end of this little, you can see these previous lows and these previous highs. So we're going to wait for some more continuation up into this. We're going to look at this 48, and let's just mark 40s. We'll mark that false break right at 40s right there. So a little bit higher than that, but if we pull this over, that is going to be the sell window that we were looking for next. So if we do get that equal size candle right there, we have 10 minutes left. Look at the volume. It's still pumping into this name. Absolutely gorgeous. BGLC, here we go. Let's pull back into these 120s. We're feeling pretty good. 120s isn't quite the wick top right here, but it's getting very close to a test. So maybe we can start at 120s, and then we can average in down the 12s, where the trend line is going to be our out. So that's how I'd set it up right there. The gap fill at 105 is possible, but with this sort of setup, we got to close to that second pullback candle. It did leave a nice wick in there, so if we see it start wicking into 120, let's just go put an order out for it. We think that if it does fill that, it has the catalyst of maybe building this U shape. If it takes out the day's high, if this is a name that's going to take out the day's high from 120, we're looking at a 22% move. And we're also going to keep an eye on NVAX. We are going to keep ringing the register, holding above 25s now on that beautiful green candle. We think that this can actually put a third candle there, and I'd say 940s. Let's just go take another 50th trim. I don't see why we shouldn't, but let's go put that order in right off of 940s in case it just wicks up there. If it wants to pull back, we think that the pullback, back to the open is reasonable. But here's your neckline. If we want to pull back down all the ways to 750 again, we have full control of how we're going to play this position out. There's 929s. We're on the bids at 9, or on the ask at 940. You can see that little itty bitty top right there could be some resistance, but if we get some false wicks above that, we can get that 940 print. We'll go right on the ask at 940.48 after that. The last bit that we really have would be this top over here at 960s. But I'd say that has some resistance up to 975. We could print 10 on this name today. If we get a push up to 10 today on NVAX, what a move. We're gonna put an alert off 122s. QDEL, how about the pump on QDEL? These COVID names are really getting going. BAC crossed over? Wait a minute. Nice push. We love seeing 28s print on this name. Let's re-put an alert in at 2860s where we'll start maybe thinking about getting some reloads on the name. So we're going to re-put that alert in off 60s. Good to put it on the map right there. I'm aware of the setup that it has. 930s. What's the high of this candle? Looks like 34s is the high. 33s is the high. Yeah, an equal sized candle puts that move up to 50s right into this little trim window that we're going to be looking for. Let's see, we had 6 minutes 50 seconds left. We can easily get this print. .33s. Let's go see what the tape's looking like here. 34s. We got 21 lots on 34s. Easy size to take out. Not much size on the bid, but there's some size climbing up. Stacking on 32s. 18 lots. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you've made a move like this and you still got people willing to jump in, 18 lots off 32s trying to hold it up. I got eaten up quick. Coming back into these upper 20s. That's alright. Very healthy move right here. Pull back into the middle of this green move is reasonable. But we might not get that pullback, so I'm not going to take the chance. BGLC, starting that first green candle. It doesn't need to wick into the bottom of this. You have some resistance built in there, and I'd say probably a little resistance built in there. So does it start wicking just like that? That's what I want to see. So now if it does come into these 120s, I'm really interested in maybe trying this for a trade. We're not going to have too much size on it, as we think it's reasonable for it to come into 117s and also 112s, maybe even the 105 gap. But that trend line is also very reasonable. But rejecting that 786 to the upside, maybe it does need to test this trend line before we make a move higher. Maybe we just need to coil sideways, build this flat top up to 150s. PWM, thank God. Start selling off. We want to see this name selling off. We are going to try this IPO down here at this gap. We're going to start at 550s. NVAX giving up the ghost. Oh, right back up to 29s. No, giving up the ghost a little bit. Oh, did it give us that fill at 40s? No way. Did we get top wick there? Did we get top wick? Oh, oh. Top wick. Ring the register on 940s. That is a print right there. Yes, sir. Give me that print right off 940s. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. We'd love to see this get back up to 50s, but we're just slightly under 50% of the position. Man, I am a happy camper today. 4 minutes left in this candle. It's still going to try and, this volume. Very good volume right there. But we did get that 40 print. I can't even believe that. Another COVID name. Another COVID name. Look at PR on a pump. We don't have much size left on this position, but I would say up to this 14s, 14 to 14.25, I think is reasonable for a print on that. Maybe an exit. I don't know. We have still a decent amount of oil, but that is showing some very good strength from an 11 entry. Not bad. NVAX still trying to hold these 920s. We're starting to chip away some of that wash sale. This was a wash sale name. We only have one lot left of the wash sales, but everything else just super clean profit, just super clean profit. So the next, this will be the next 20% of the position is the last of the wash sale that we have. But after that wash sale is over, it is clean profit on the name. I mean, super nice move. Looking at the daily candle, this could easily go test up to 10s. So we are holding a good size position. We'll think about some more legitimate size trims off of 10. Maybe get a true 10% trim off the name. And, after that, it gives us a lot of leeway where we can hit some reloads. Look at that gap at 805s. We are going to be ringing the register or trying to reload that gap right in the middle of the move. So it's potential that the wick high is in for the day. Got as high as 41s. We have a 940 print. So regardless of what it wants to do, have a day NVAX. Yes, sir. Let's see if we can find something. Let's look at some top volume for the day. Invos. Gapping up over the top of that trend line. Is there anything worth taking a look here? AMC. I forget who always kept coming on in here for the. I mean, my AMC channel has been set like this since May of 22. I don't think I've adjusted it. It's been the same. Maybe we've adjusted some lines, but I mean, and he would come in and he'd ask about AMC. He'd say, "Man, this is really getting ready for a pump back up to all-time highs." I'm like, "Man, maybe it does." And when it breaks this channel to the upside, that is when I'll trade it. But until it shows me that it's gonna differ from this channel, there is no need for me to even think about it. We'll think about it off the gap fill. We have the gap marked here. We have the gap marked here. A couple different levels where we can maybe try the long and put a stop in. If it stops us out, it stops us out. We'll wait for the next level. 145 is maybe a little extreme, but you know, you could have said going from 6 down to 250, which my gap fill at 216, 215 was extreme, and here we are. When you start doing stock splits, 17 to 15, that's a weird stock split number. Very strange. Disney did turn green. Let's take a look at this. Green on the day, officially. Is it going to be able to fight through those 86s? DFS. You know, I kept saying it. Even when we were up here at 94, I said the bottom is not in. I still believe that. But it doesn't change my conviction for the company. We are going to continue buying this name. We're going to wait for this dividend, of course, which gets paid out tomorrow. We'll see if we get some further movement to the downside. But marking just these wick lows right here. I'd say that's 88. We will try 88. Is there any gaps that we have in here? It looks like we do have one. 87.25, which the gap is at 30s. We will buy that as well. And the gap down here at 82.20 will get bought as well. So just mapping out some levels there, I'd say Vale. Why no pullback? Just give me that pullback I was looking for. Come on. BAC getting close to triggering us. Getting close to that 2850. We are going to buy 2850s today, and maybe in one order leading up to it. Let's look at the top movers. HKD, don't like it. BGLC, I like it, but at the right price. You gotta give this some time. Let's see if this can show us a push up, confirm a higher low, or some sort of low, just hold, and then maybe we can take a breakout. But 120s would have never came in anyways, so I don't know if we would have ever got the fill. But had we tried that 21 off of just 25s, we'd be a little bit in the money. Nothing to brag about. I still think it needs some time. Let's just see it trade sideways for a while. And if it shows me that conviction that maybe we can get a breakout of that 150 today, we can try it. But I mean, until then, I think we're kind of in a standstill. And BAC getting very close to this 2860, and here we are on a nice red move to the downside. The banks are done. BAC's done. Going out of business. BAC's going out of business. Yeah, okay. Crypto's gonna take over the banks, dog. We are gonna play this 2850. Getting tempted to go on the bid here at 28 at 55s, just leading up in front of it. But this is in territory where I like it. And let's just go. You know, while we're waiting for this to come on in, NVAX looks like it's gonna have a little bit of consolidation period, which leaving that wick high, you know, it could go take out those highs. We could go on the ask right now at 948s, maybe 950s. But let's get this out of the way. I would say a true pullback if it really came back into like 870s. Maybe, but a nice green move nonetheless. You know, regardless of what it does today, there's going to be no need to panic on this position, as these are the type of positive breaks. These are the types of moves I want to see off of that positive break. So we're building that position off this support level. Man, very well done. We could have had one fill down at that 7 flat. We had the opportunity. We didn't pull the trigger. That was yesterday. But nice volume increase and a lot of good volume coming into the name today. I'd expect the volume to actually increase compared to yesterday's off of a nice clean positive break, actually in that oversold area. Even if we need to pull back, that 805 gap is going to be a reload area where we think about it, and if it continues going against us, you can see the neckline break that we had yesterday. That is going to be in the playbook. But looking at this, I do think that this has some reasonable resistance up here at these 10s. So let's see if we can get there over the course of this week, and maybe we don't get that move until next week. But all in all, that's what I would say. Going over the BAC. We'll give the catalyst for why we like BAC. You guys know it's in the banking. There's all kinds of different things you can look into the banking. So I'm going to keep this simple because I'm not a bank expert. But looking at quarterly, good revenue growth that's continuing. The shares outstanding continuing the decrease. Quarter after quarter, we are decreasing. Looking at the yearly, you can see 10, 10.4, 10.2, 10.1, 10, 9.3, 8.7, 8.4, 8.1. We're looking for them to continue using that capital, operating at 35%, 25 or 27% profit margins. We're looking for them to continue buying back cheap shares. They already increased their dividend 9%, give or take, plus or minus, whatever you'd like to say. Okay, banks. Debt levels on banks is very tough to say, but a lot of cash on the books. Also a lot of debt. The cash on the books covers the total debt. Let's go to a quarterly. I don't know why I'm not able to see total long-term liabilities. The balance sheet looks a little funky here. I don't recall it being like this. But looking over to the cash flow, we'll just go off of annual. Free cash flow the last 2 years negative. But operating at a great level. And here's your repurchase of shares. Continuing the repurchase shares, that is what I want to see them do. In terms of return on invested capital, not a large return on invested capital, but that return on equity is reasonable and respectable around that 10%, which comes from your shares buybacks. So all in all, I like the long catalyst. I think that this BAC is a legitimate trend line right here. If it wants to break down this trend line, we have some marked downside risks down to these middle 25s. I'm okay. It's not a super large position. It's not a large allocation of portfolio sizing in this position. If this trend line gives up, it gives up. But we are gonna have some. We had some trims into 3150s, 32s, and we were on the ask at 33 flat, just never got it. So had we got those 33s, we probably would have had our first reload in off this neckline. But the first reload coming in around 29 flat, I'm just playing it accordingly to my plan. It's part of my plan. And here's 28.55. So let's go see what type of action we have here. We're gonna go put this order in off 28. We're gonna mark it in for a little bit first, and then we're going to put that order in off 28.50s. And we're already telling ourselves that, hey, we think this could easily, let's go back to that daily chart before I put that order in. We could easily have to adjust this trend line, just taking the wick lows right here, where we do think that there is more downside room. We have a sneaky gap here at 28.28, and we have a sneaky gap right here at 28.07s. So those are going to be two areas where we continue averaging into this position, but 28 flat, we're looking for some false wicks into this lower trend line. But as of right now, we're going to keep this trend line set like this, and in our eyes, we think we're playing a trend line. Given negative break, but if we go over to the weekly, you can see we've never got that true positive break on our weekly chart. So if this is just playing the course and we start building some sort of momentum to the upside from here, we think that we can get this positive break on our weekly and actually trend up even higher than what we have already. You probably have a downtrend that's rejecting. If we do get that weekly positive break, I'd expect a break of that downtrend, and then I'd be calling this 33, a neckline break where, I wouldn't be surprised to see this print up to this low, flat bottom break, reject, hasn't tested it since. So if I'm talking about down here at 28, I think it's reasonable that this can print up to 42s. I think it's a legitimate long. That's what I'll say about it. But let's go get that market order in now that we've let this breathe a little bit. Trying to hold, got as low as 53s. Let's just get just a small add, nothing crazy. and we'll go right there, and we're going to throw the same size order. Uh, Actually, we'll go a little bit more of a size on this next order, and we will go and put that right off 28.50s. And that is what, if it comes down into 28.25s today, or 28.28 gap today, okay, we'll buy some more there. But we're going to go right off of these 28.50s, and we're going to go BAC. NVAX, holy buckets. I look away from NVAX for a brief second, and it's up back and testing up towards those 40s. Let's see if we can get some more continuation on this. Am I being greedy? Let's see 950s print. Come on. BGLC still showing a wick. I would like to see it come back in and alert me off these 22s, maybe some wick lows. But if it does now, it's like, okay, that's a stair step action. It would lead me to think that, okay, let's build this sort of tight channel to the downside like this. Sort of like this, and let's see if we can actually start our position maybe at these 115s, which we marked the wick low, but if I mark this wick, meets in very well around, so 116, 114, 112 is the open of today. You know, if I mark the body candles, which is a wick top, wicks through it, that's 110, and then you have the gap fill and trend line. So a couple different ways we could see this playing out. I wouldn't be surprised to see this go take out the day's high. So if the catalyst for down here is if we do get this stair step, it would be respecting this sort of tight channel to the downside. So that's what. Oh, whoa, 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 PayPal, dude. I'm really sick and tired of this setup. Excuse me if I sound a little bit rash or a little bit upset, but I'm really sick and tired of this setup. We're on the bids at 20 at 57.50, and it just, there's no even sign of pullback here. And now reclaiming 60s, given the look for a channel. Look at this. Look at that. Look at how it just follows that. Like, am I? Do I sound crazy for thinking that, hey, let's break this tight ascending channel right here? Do I sound crazy for expecting that? Just holds it like a glove. But probably a wedge pattern forming right there. If it were to be some sort of ascending channel, if we just mapped it out like this, if it does run up to the top, and look at that, look at that, just mapping out just a parallel channel. You can see the previous lows right here would have to come into question around 61.50. Do we get a rejection from there? I don't know. Your strength still isn't there on PayPal. Uh, uh, at the time, we were saying, hey, we really think we can get middle 50s where we're going to play this more aggressive. But given a nice move, reclaiming back above these lows, I'd say 60 reclaim. It just gives a gap up. It doesn't even retrace down to the gap. Looks very good for continuation, I would say. But let's get this channel off right there. Unbelievable is that it's doing that right there. That's absolutely insane. I don't mean to dampen the mood. We're having a very fun day with NVAX. Another 15% day. What a move. Holy buckets. But yeah, I would say you have just this little bit of resistance up here towards 1050 or 950s. Let's see if we can print some 945s, 948s, somewhere in that range. And then before we know it, we'll be talking about this up at 10. So yeah, very, very happy day. Happy camper today. Discover coming on in. Did BAC give me those 50 prints? Got as low as 52. So we did get an ad. And let's see where that fill came in at. Live trade, live position taken. We got 28.53 halves. So 7 pennies in the money. Is that going to be something I brag about? No, no. We're probably holding these shares for a long time. We can maybe think about some trims into, maybe the previous low. Probably not. I'll probably be showing greed at that point. Maybe the gap fill, I'll probably still be showing greed, but the downtrend, I would say, is a legitimate downtrend. It could be respected, but I'll be bullish. I'll be bullish around this area. I'll be probably calling for, hey, we're gonna break this downtrend. We're gonna go break this neckline, and we're gonna go, top end of this. You could say this is some resistance, definitely some resistance up here in those mid 30s to 37. But from there, we'll probably be just trimming some levels and holding the piece for up into the 40s. If we can print up into the 40s, I think it's reasonable. But we do have this little trend line set right here. This is really what you should be looking at. Is from the banking crisis of '08, you mark this trend line. I'd say this is a more legitimate trend line, which also meets up sort of a channel. So before you know it, we're going to be saying, hey, 40s is here. Okay, let's see if we can get top end of the channel, which is up at 80s, which you have your all-time high of the name up here, which is 55. So, I mean, looking back at the top movers, BGLC kind of discrediting this channel, setting up the flat top. So if it does pull back in, let's clear off everything. Let's just clear off everything. Restart from scratch. Okay, now that it showed me this green candle move, I'm sure a readjustment of the channel could be necessary, something like this. But it is truly discrediting this, and if it does set up this flat top, I'd say off of this wick high would be the pullback that we would be looking for, which, the wick high right here, potentially meeting in with this 21. If this is going to go, this could be the potential best fill that you're going to get. And just marking the body of this red candle, that 32 to 30. NVAX 44s. Hold on, let's go get an order off. NVAX, we're going to take off a 150 print here. Just taking off a 50th. And, that's here at 45s. Let's just mark it. Let's just mark it. Oh, man. Let's wait for those 45s to come back in. Possibly the wick high coming in right there. Let's see if this can get back up there. We're going to try and get this this print up here right in front of 50s. In the process, still keeping an eye on this BGLC. I mean, you guys can go back to the very beginning of the live stream. This was one of the first tickers we looked at when it was sitting at 114. Just saying, just saying. And actually, you can go back to the live stream of yesterday when we were talking about this, respecting the 702 and a pullback into one flat. We said was a reasonable add. Pumps up, could have had easy outs right into the body candles. You would have got filled off 113s. It's a 13% move. Coils, you would have had a few prints, maybe another print off of 12s if you tried the reload off of one. And you could have held this into the close, and as soon as it gaps up, you could have said, okay, we're in the money still, let's just give it some time. We could have had some prints up to some lows here. You could have had 118s, you could have had 125s, and you could have also had 140s. Beautiful. That's a 40% move from a call out off of one flat yesterday. 40% move. Just saying. And even here we said that, hey, this is, if we're looking at one, this is going to be the one we look at. And look at this. From 125s, if you were just playing that whole quarter, 125s, you're already sitting 10% in the money. I'm not trying to brag right here. This is just, when I see a setup like this, where, I mean, I know NVAX is going, but it respects the full retracement to the upside, or to the downside, respects the full retracement on the first move, that alone already gives you what you're looking for. And now discrediting this channel, I would expect some volume to start picking up, but if it does pull back into these 125s, we are going to be there, and we're going to try this name. NVAX up to 148, so let's go put that order in, and let's see where our fill, we just marketed it. We just went back over and marketed. Let's see what this fill came in at. We got 947.25s. Clap it up. Clap it up. For this type of trade that we just hit over the last few days, I should have 100 people sitting in here watching me. At least 100. I'm sure you have people that have thousands of people watching them that are trying to take this trade at 9, trying to take this trade at 9.25, potentially getting stopped out, looking like fools, looking like degenerates compared to what I just did to this stock over the last 2 days. Gorgeous. There's your 7. Beautiful. And this is the tip of the iceberg. I'm not saying that to be greedy. You know, the viewers will come one day. Eventually they'll realize that we got something special brewing here. But, you know, it's partially on me for not investing into myself. I could easily have a face cam. I could easily have upgraded my computer at this point. We could easily spend some capital of getting a brokerage account that we're trading on where it shows me physically taking the fill on my chart. I'm sure that would get a lot more traction than me just sitting here. But, you know, I love this watch list. I love this watch list. I really just don't want to discredit it, and I don't want to pay $50 a month. That goes straight out of my expenses, or straight into my expenses. I'm not. I don't know if I want to do that, but the face cam and upgrade of the PC, which we have slowly been upgrading the PC, investing back into ourselves. That's the best investment. You know, I'm talking about taking investments in the companies here. You know, the true best investment that you can make is investing in yourself. Mark those words. I should pin that. Invest in yourself, and it's something that I have thought about multiple times. Uh, getting a face cam, but you know that day will come. You guys have my word. That day will come. But you want to talk about good volume coming into something. Even if this pulled back into like 9 flat, I'd say this is a beautiful setup. And BGLC, there we go. Here we go. Showing that washout top, giving me the feel that, hey, we can come back to these 125s. At 125s, we will think about playing this. But we're not going to rush into it. We got it right here. We can watch it. But we're gonna keep watching this NVAX. I think the next level, you know, we just got 48s printed. I think we can wait for this next part of this sell window, which, you know, let's go to a daily and see exactly why we put this in. Just the wick highs from the initial move back, where this is the catalyst right here. You mark this green full candle. It has a false break right there, catches a bid, tries to hold. There's your flat bottom break, a test up to it. Comes all the ways down the 5s, retraces up right to those 60s. You get a gap up, we never close above that. We have a couple false wicks above it, never close above it. Never close above it right here. Is this going to be the day where we finally close above it, or should it be respected? Seeing all that information right there, just marking one sole candle when it's giving up the ghost. Here's 56s, so let's just go get an order off of that, and let's just keep ringing the register. We're going to do a 150th print again, and we're going to keep printing this 150th at a time. We see no need to be rash. We think that we can easily print 10 on this name. If it really got out of hand, we think that we can print these 1250 tops here. But if it really got out of hand, this was the original flat bottom break. Boom. Here's your dream move up to 16, 17s. So having the entry down here at 7 allows me to not worry about any pullbacks. This is the beauty. We can go back to forward when we were printing that up at 15s when we had an 1125 entry. It was the same type of setup where we were playing this trend line, got very close to getting stopped out, but we didn't, and we're getting rewarded for it right now. So let's go get that 50th print. Almost put an extra 0 on there. That was my fault. Let's go get this 50th print. We're gonna go right off of 960. If 960 prints, great. If 960 doesn't print, great. Doesn't matter. It makes no difference to us. I've already marked some pullback areas that we can think about reloading. I don't know if I'd try this one, but if it did pull back into 805 and maybe this retest the neckline up at the original neckline break at that 760, we can think about it. But going over to the 15-minute, it just got done printing new highs. Unless it's wicked on back in underneath these wicks, I think that we can get these 60s to print here. But other than that, looking at BAC now, 10 pennies in the money. Just barely didn't get those 28.50 fills, which it is what it is. I will say DFS did give this gap fill, so we did get the gap fill. We didn't buy it. The only reason why we aren't buying it is because we got the dividend payout tomorrow. Um, but I still think this 90 level is a monster level. If it gives up that 90 level after the dividend gets paid out, I would understand. But we have these wick lows, that's 88s. We got a gap fill at 87.25s, and if it really were to go against us a lot, we are going to be hammering it in these low 80s. That's just me. Just because I'm buying it here off this 90 level, I would say this is not the bottom. I'm telling you guys right now, this is not the bottom. Strength already tells you. You have weak strength going into this dividend. I would be shocked if this wick low was the wick low right here. But if you understand the process of why I'm trying to buy it, and this is a true long-term investment. As soon as that share buyback gets reinstated, which, based off the conference call of last Wednesday, they've given a timetable of a month to 2 months to have more information on it. And at the very latest, the next earnings, which we're looking at, 3 months from now, 2.5 months from now. All it's going to take is if they reinstate that share buyback down here, they are going to be unloading capital into buying back shares, decreasing that pie, making my pie or my ownership more. That's music to my ears. Uh, but the consistency that they put 350 EPS, if they can just put up $3 EPS, $12 a year, you're looking at paying off the investment in 8 years. You add the EPS boost that they should get from the buybacks that they have. I think $3 of EPS a quarter over the course of 5-10 years is very conservative. I wouldn't be surprised if 2-3 years from now, you're looking at Discover Financial putting up, $5 to $6 of EPS a quarter, where that's paying off $90 in 3 years. You can only do so much due diligence in a company. Obviously, there's a banking aspect of it that I don't fully understand, of course. But then you add in the increase of dividends of 16%. I'd expect that dividend of a payout ratio of only 18% to continue increase on top of that. Yeah, I just think that this monster level is worth trying. That's my opinion, of course. I would say, like I said, I would be shocked if this is the low right here. Maybe it is. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. All I'm doing is telling myself that, hey, it's a very solid support level. Let's try it. But we'll see if we get that print on NVAX or not. 960s did not come on in. We got to a high of 56s. We're on the ask at 60s. We'll see if that can print. But once we get up to that 10 level, I shouldn't say it like we're going to get up there, but if we get up to that 10 level, we're going to start increasing the amount of size that we take off of it. We'll start going to maybe 1/20th, maybe 1/10th. We'll take a clean 1/10th off, and then we can not trim the levels as frequently. Not as close to trims. We'll just go a hard trim right off of 10 and see if we can hold for those 1250s or 12s. BAC. I mean, how many times have I been in this scenario where I take a live trade for you guys right off of a beautiful support level, and we put one more fill in where I really wanted to buy, which is 2850s, and we wick like a penny or two off of it. How many times? Drift, I don't know if you're here, but how many times over the last 2 weeks have we done this where we're literally a penny or two off from the level? God, that is skillful. That is hard to do as frequently as I do that. And you could say, well, obviously you're going off of a whole quarter level. You're going off that flat 50 cents. Obviously you're going to do that from time to time. As many times as I've done it over the last couple weeks, I never recall missing that many fills where we actually put a little bit more size on this fill. We said, hey, we're going to put the same size order that we just bought in at. Let's up that size that we're trying to get off 50s, and we don't get it. I've never seen it. I've never seen it. Well, I have seen it, just not as frequent. Absolute insanity. That's crazy. I'm gonna get a reload on some coffee. Drift knows how we like the coffee. Brown. Not a light brown, not a dark brown, not a black. Dab of milk and some sugar. You know, there is one thing that I have a bad habit of. That's putting the coffee in my cup first. I should put the dab of milk in first and then the sugar. That's what somebody told me. Uh, but then I can't get it to that brown. Then I risk it getting to that light brown or maybe a dark brown. But then obviously I can add more milk in if it's a dark brown. Mix that up a little bit. Mmm. Ooh, that's hot. Whew. That first drink of a fresh cup of coffee, can't beat it. That first drink built different. You know what I'm saying, Drift? That first drink is built different. Ah, BAC now 18 pennies in the money. Some would say, dude, how do you do it? I mean, it's really not that hard, guys. I mean, just once you get an entry, getting the entry is the hardest thing. I will say that. Ah, damn it, I gotta take this call. Be right back. Wasn't anything important, so nothing to say. Now, what was I saying? I was saying something. Oh yeah, we were talking about BAC. The hardest thing, and a lot of times it's setups like this, like trend lines. Like we can even go with NVAX, since NVAX is probably the popular name. The hardest thing is getting that entry. When you're playing a trend line like this, it's so hard. It's so easy to get stopped out, because I mean, looking back to when we were really starting this position was on this red candle day, and we had fills at 40s, had fills at 25s, we had fills off that 112 gap. Excuse me. We had fills right off that 112 gap, and it's just like, is this going to be a trend line that holds? We risk it gapping down heavy, and we go out of the money so quickly. It's so hard to build this position. I mean, you can go over so many examples of this where forward is a beautiful one as well. It's just like, man, I risk forward gapping down, and I go out of the money on a decent sized position. But once you get that move, you trim the levels all the ways to the upside, and you have that small piece of that position left. It's like it's so easy to hold it, that small position, all the ways back into the level where it's like, okay, now we're at a neckline. Now we're getting close to this gap up here at 1140s. Now we're getting really close to this trend line. And it's so easy that second time around where BAC is a second time around. I would say you are legitimately getting into this trend line now. Uh, where it's so easy to just say, hey, we can try some off 29s. We just got done trimming this at 3150s and a few trims in the 32s. Why not just try and trim a little bit or add a little bit off those 29s? If it goes against me, we have this trend line as backup. We have a clean 2850 level, which, you know, just because it's catching a little bit of a bid as of right now, uh, I mean, it just so happens we're also getting in right before this dividend as well, which, you know, you could say that is a positive to adding right here. But for all I know, this ends up giving up the trend line. Well, now at least we've taken some profits on the name. And even if it gives up this trend line, you know, it's still a name that we like long term. And we can go even more, build the position better off of those heavy support levels, which I'd say is 27 is a pretty decent support level. And if it gets real exhaustive and goes against us, we have this long-term trend line. You have a neckline, you have a gap, and you have a gap here at these low 20s. I would say that is as clean a value as I'm really looking to get. That's where I wanted to start the position originally. The reason why we started off this trend line is because it's like, dude, this might not get down there. I risk it. I mean, when you start putting positive breaks like this, and then a hold of trend line and another positive break, you set a higher low, you take out that high, and then you take out this neckline. It's like, man, it, the term that I use is a nut up or shut up candle, and it's just you risk it. You risk it even going higher than this. The a great example of this is Delta. When you put that nut up or shut up candle, when you're wicking into these previous highs, you get the gap up, and then you even push this downtrend. It's like this is a nut up or shut up candle. You risk this ripping. Like this could have easily even ripped higher. I mean, you look at the earnings report and you just match up 280 of EPS. You risk this truly getting up to the all-time highs. So if you're talking about a nut up or shut up candle down here in the 30s, and you're saying to yourself, hey, this, I wouldn't be surprised if this really just ripped up to like 60. You're looking at a double up on a safer investment. Uh, the airlines. What is going to take out the whole airline industry? It's just like uh, teleportation. Uh, yeah, when's teleportation gonna be? It's like you know what I mean? So it's 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 very easy for me to hold delta from 50 when we had trims at 48. We never really got those true 50 prints and never got there, if I recall. Yeah, it gets as high as 48.90, 48.81s. So we never did get those true 50 prints, which we were trying to get. But just holding it all the ways back in, it's so easy when you build off that trend line. And now we actually have a good till cancel order for Delta off 40.25. You can see it, it's marked right there. You got the body candles, and I just marked this body right here. You know, you do have a gap fill a little bit under that 39.25s. We're going to be respecting that, and it's so easy to do that. When you get the entries down here, you trim the levels all the ways to the upside, and when it pulls back into a support level, it's, you know, maybe I'm rambling on too much. Maybe you guys are tired of hearing that, but uh, a lot of my best movement has come from sort of trend lines like this, and honestly, where the fun really begins is when you start reloading those positions. You start taking those profits and re-putting them back into those companies at a lower price. I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I'm definitely having a lot of fun today, as you can see. NVAX on a beautiful pump. Beautiful pump. Never did get those 60s. First red candle coming on in. If this next red candle pulls in to a 9 and maybe a 9 flat, I wouldn't be surprised to see this start building that sort of U shape, and we do end up getting those 60s. It looks like, oh, it says 960 was the high. Wait a minute. Did we get a print off that 960s? If I go over to my portfolio and we got a print off 960s here, let's go take a look. Oh my gosh, we got the top wick print off 960s. I didn't even realize that. We just rang the register on. I thought I missed it. I thought I missed it. Man, ring the register. We could have easily put that off 962, uh, which is the level we said, hey, we've never closed above 962. Let's put it just a couple pennies below. We got the top wick print. So maybe my order filling scared it off a little bit, but so happy today. I mean, today has just been gorgeous, and now we're sitting almost at that 50% of the position left. Yeah, you go find that guy that has. You know what's funny? Drift, I hope you're here for this. You know what's funny? I'm sure you have people that have hundreds, maybe thousands of people watching them that are taking the trade right here. Taking the trade, and they respect 950s, and they're trying to get some more, and now they're getting stopped out right now. They're saying to themselves, oh, red engulfing candles coming in. Oh, this is done. We're going to blast to the downside. Oh, man, punch short. Punch short. Go ahead. Punch short. I want you to punch short. Punch short, send it all the ways back down to 870. I don't care. Take that short-term gain, because you know what's going to happen? It's going to start wicking, and then those guys that are punching in short against this positive break, they could pan out and do very well. But against this positive break, I want as many people to punch short on this as possible. I want them to say, oh, look at this monster level right here. I can short this. And then all it's going to take is a little bit of a pop. And, they start puckering up a little bit. Once they pucker up a little bit, oh, man, that's where we're going to see some, oh, man, I can't wait. So excited to see how this position plays out, and to still have very good size on the position, over 50%. I don't know how many trims we've had on the name. We can probably go look at that over the past couple days. How many prints have we had on this name? Let's take a look. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 prints today. Where is yesterday? Where's yesterday at? Here's yesterday. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 prints yesterday, 8 prints today, 16 prints total on the name, and we're still holding over 50% of the position. How about that? That is absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. You find somebody else. Go find somebody else. 16 prints on a name, still holding 50% of the position. But I will say we do have a bit of wash sale left. Every time I print the name, the average is going lower and lower and lower. We have about about 18% left of the position is still a wash sale, which the average for that is 766. But after those 766s are gone, this average is going to be damn close to those 725s. Yeah, there's going to be no need to even think about it. Honestly, once we get this wash, if we get a little bit of a bid up to those tens, maybe I talked about having a little bit bigger of a print, a sell print. Maybe just getting rid of those wash sale shares and taking the profits on them, clearing out that wash sale. Next time we pull back in, we can respect the gap off at 809. Actually, the gap is at 807, and then we can respect the neckline. And after the neckline, it'll just be buying the trend line again. We can rinse and repeat. If this trend line wants to hold, great. If it doesn't, we can have some clear outs underneath those 690s. Those 690s is going to be the out for the name probably. Which from a 25, let's say we got a 725 average. Once we get this wash sale done, that's a 36% or a 36 penny risk. It'll probably average up a little bit when we hit these reloads, but I'd have a very hard time thinking that this name is going to turn red on me. Even if we crack this trend line to the downside, I'd have a hard time thinking that we are going to be red on this one. Very happy. DFS would have been some nice shares bought. You wouldn't be getting the dividend for this ex-dividend date. You gotta have it locked into your account 2 days before. So yesterday was the last day. So if you're trying to sneak in before this dividend, you're doing it wrong. But I wouldn't play this like, okay, I gotta get in before the dividend. If I was gonna be saying that to myself, I'd probably say that a couple weeks out in advance. So 1 week out in advance for BAC. I'd say Devon is a couple weeks. You're looking at September 14th. You got a few weeks. If this does want to come back into those upper 40s, we are not going to be shy. We missed our opportunity here off these 48.50s. And this trend line is not set perfect. I think I was zoomed out when I said it. But I would say right in there, making sure we add that tap. So we have room to adjust it, but for right now, we're going to keep it with that green engulfing candle. But if I was going to adjust it, you have some leeway down to the bottom of these wicks. So that's a potential wick in the 48s and trade back up above that trend line. That's how we're going to be playing Devon. But the ads yesterday off 50 flat, just slightly in the money. Nothing to brag about. But then I'd say another play that's also on stocks for the day is that BTC. Bigger dividend. I do want to say that I didn't personally see it. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he brought up something that I looked into a little bit. There is some risk here with BTI. It's not all roses. It's not oh, this 30 levels gold and you're getting true. I do believe you're undervalued at this point. But looking into it some more, there is a potential that a ban is going to come on menthol, and they have two products that are a good majority of their sales for the cigarettes, and they have menthol in it. So if there is a menthol ban, I would not be surprised to see this have a lot more downside risk. So then what I would say to that is just make sure you size accordingly. I'll be transparent with this one. Portfolio size wise, we're sitting at 2.4%. Normally, when I build something to a full position size, I'm sitting around that 3. If I really love them, 4, maybe 5%. Just size accordingly. Personally, I could have easily played this one differently, and honestly, had I played it differently, I'd probably be sitting around that percent to a percent and a half. So I'm not proud of how I played this position. I do think over the course of the next 5 years, I do think I'm going to make out decent on this. But maybe some personal biases into the space of tobacco could have influenced my decision making on BTI and also Alteria as well. The position size on Alteria isn't as big. We're sitting at a 1.6, but I will be a little transparent with that, and there is some risk. I'm not going to make it sound like it's all beautiful, but I feel my portfolio is able to take that risk, and I really think that the return, if that all blows over and it's all just smoke, blown smoke, I do think these low 30s on BTI is very good value, and I'll be a buyer anywhere near 30 flat. So just being transparent there. NVAX coming back on in 922s. Let's take a look at BGLC. Now this is what I'm talking about right here. Let's adjust this channel. We have a couple washout tops, which are scary. And washout tops, I took some losing trades last week on some washout tops. But this one coming back in the 25s. We have 3 nice green candles on increasing volume. You got the decreasing volume, a little bit of increased volume, but definitely some selling pressure. Now coming right back into this 125 level. If I was going to run a hard stop, I'd just give it 5 pennies. Oh man, man, man. That wick right there. Buyers holding this low. I do like this. This is very interesting. I think if I was going to run a hard stop, I do think I'd probably stop out into some support. I risk getting wicked out. But if I was going to try this, I would maybe try this 125 level and, run some stops, maybe at the 120, maybe give it a couple pennies down to 18s. But now the candle turning green, I wanted to see that just hold down there a little bit, and I was actually going to get ready to put a market order in and then also an order off 25s. A decent setup. If this does confirm a higher low, all it would take is a break of this. What's my bad? I forgot to adjust this channel to the downside here. I would say, that would give you the catalyst of, you could just get wicked out, and maybe it needs to just trade in this tight channel, and then maybe it doesn't even give you the break today, but tomorrow it gives you that break somewhere over here after testing to this body candle high. So you trade down, catch a bid, trade down again, you start wicking into those 110s, 115s, and then tomorrow we're talking about this breaking a higher. I wouldn't be surprised if that's how it played out. So that's sort of the risk of treating it like a day trade. But if I was treating it like a day trade, I would want to see this low hold and see it break this downtrend, which, this is a reasonable setup. You see the buying pressure coming on in. We have 11 minutes left in this candle. I would say in terms of volume, it's already a decent amount of volume compared to what it has done on this pullback. Obviously you get up into the 170s, 150s, but on these green candle moves, you're seeing 47, 45, 75. Wick top, washout top. I'd expect somebody to really be trying to hammer this short right off those body candles right here. So you see just marking those body candles, that is that wick top right there. Boom. boom, right back in. So that is partially why I'd say you have some volume increase right there. But if it starts trading up above 130.38, I'd say it's a very good look. Very good look. You could say that to the bear side, so that's a bull catalyst. If we get over that area, is that you're flirting with the breakout area. You know, if this broke 150, I'd say that's bullish. You might wash out top and trade right back in really quick. I would just caution if that was the case, but if you have a 125 entry, you can stay true to that stop, have some outs up to these 140s, maybe 150 for that potential washout top. Uh, but if you're trying to take this breakout from right here, you put that washout top in, and boom, just like that, you're going to be out of the money. It is a little bit scary, but I really wish I went over this a little bit earlier. I think I would have a position in this. This is kind of what I talked about. If I just put the market order in and then adjusted my channel, might have an entry. This can still reject and come back in. It's just like, you know, now if it does, it's like, okay, somebody's really holding it from breaking out right here. So really, we're getting very close to putting in a nut up or shut up candle here. Is it going to be something that I trade? You know, we're having a good day. We could test the waters with it, but it's hard for me to really call out a dandy of an entry off this one flat yesterday that gives you a move for some outs, and it would have never stopped you out of this one. And then to also readdress it again right at the beginning of the live stream, saying that, hey, this 115 is it could easily put in a nice move, and we we said that a potential break of of this high price up here, you know, the more it's putting in a candle like this, I wouldn't be surprised. 9 minutes left in this candle. You can see this volume already getting very similar to these first two moves to the upside. Nice hammer candle, and now getting over 38s. I I just can't do it. I can't do it. I was so close to buying this off of one flat yesterday. I can't do it. I can't do it. But I do think there is some potential with this, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it rip. But trying to keep conviction. Reject. My bad, Drift. It's been a while since I looked at the chat. I don't know what you were saying there. Maybe you just said that when I was. Maybe you were talking about this candle rejecting this high. My bad. It's been a while since I looked at the chat. You could have said that 10 minutes ago, for all I know. You could have actually said that when I was going to get coffee. But having a good day. NVAX pulling down in the 9s. I would say it's going to have yet another day of rejecting these 62s. But we got that 60 print. Believe it or not, we were on the ask of those 60s. That is the wick high. Our order set the tone. Boom. That's what we do here on the stream. We hit the wick top off of 140s. It got a little bit higher. Nope, 140s was the wick top here. We hit the wick top here. Those are and we did have a 48 print. We respected the level that we had drawn out. So we have 40s, 48s, and 60s. Those are my last three prints. I still think that this is a reasonable level down here at 9 flat. Let's see if we can. You were talking about how other people were going to bail out on the red candle, thinking was going down. You know, honestly, Drift. That's a testimony of my year of 23. Early in the year, I probably would have cut it beforehand. Just because I don't, you know, and I can use the example of Ford of when I didn't, but I looked at Ford as a much more established company, much more even and growing financials. Where NVAX, you're looking at this bio space. It's like, or this pharma space. It's like the earnings can be so manipulated in this space. They can basically choose when they want to declare revenues and profits. And, you know, a profitable quarter on a GAAP basis, it's like, is this sustainable? A huge beat on revenue. It's like, how much of their revenues are they putting in on this quarter? Where is that going to be sustainable? When you're dealing with something like this, me early in the year, I probably would have tried it somewhere in here equally as well. But I truly think I would have got stopped out early in the year, and that's just being unbiased. So I will look at that as a testimony of just uh, as we go on. We talked about it yesterday. I'm looking to get better every single day. There's opportunities in here where I could have easily gotten better. Where my first print on the name came in yesterday off 60s. Where I could have, if I really believed in it. Yeah, it was a small 125th print. We took profit on it. But I would say, looking back, this is a true neckline break. This is holding this trend line, and yesterday when that volume really started picking up, we'll go down to that neckline and we'll go look at it. You can see the volume has truly picked up, and I really didn't have to start printing right here, where we then started printing in front of eights and we printed all the ways up. You know, I didn't take too much off the position. The prints were worthy, but if I really believed in the setup. Um, I could have let some strength really push up to that 8, which had some levels up here at 8. Uh, I think we may have had a print inside of these 80s. We may have been looking at it as a retracement play. So looking at those 780s, I do think we had some prints in there. I'd have to go back and look. Uh, but just the growth. There's always something to look back and say, hey, we could have played it better. We could have done better. We could have averaged in the position a little bit better. We could have bought that 7 flat and truly trusted this trend line. We were sitting there on the stream. We were watching it live. We were watching it live, saying, "Man, what is going on? Why are people looking at the same thing as me?" That's what I was sitting here saying. I was like, "Are people looking at the same thing as me? Like, what am I missing here?" Whereas I could have said, I trust that people are also looking at the same thing as me. And let's just go put an order in. If I'm wrong, we can get stopped out underneath these lows right here. Run that tight stop. We had it. We're in a position where we're thinking about 680s, and we were thinking about a deep stop here at these 650s. I don't know if I would have gave it to these 650s, but had I just trusted these 680s, getting another lot off this 7. That's another $16 of risk off if I just went one lot. Would have added some size to the position, and that one lot, if I was still holding an extra lot here, we're talking about an extra $250. So, I mean, there is potential where I could have easily played it better, but all in all, looking at now, I say it's very good testimony to the resilience of building this position out. It's not easy to do. It's easy to watch it, and I'm not talking about you. It's easy to watch it and watch somebody else doing it, but when you're talking about your own capital, it's a difficult thing to do. So I'm very proud of myself for it, and I'm excited to see this play out. I think that we can really print this name over into the double digits, and we'll see where it goes from there. Got to get the double digits first. I'm not saying it's a sure thing. But this vertical move on a fresh positive break, I'm looking for this to hold up here. If it can, where's an example of that? Maybe NVAX isn't the best thing, but this is a pretty good example of what I want to see. A nice little chop right here. You see when you get this positive break, no, that's not a good example. This is a better example. See how big players at that middle ground. You get your positive break, boom, a nice shoot up, a nice sideways consolidation. So it might need to trade sideways for a little bit, and you test and give that little bit of a false negative break. Really test some of the people that are trying to play for continuation. And then when you get these chop actions right here and it holds positive, look at that nice slow churn. We think that this in all is possible. Now I'm not saying it's going to rip from 14 all the ways up to 200, but I do think that a dream move for this. I would say if this can get up to those 16s to 17s, we'll respect the levels. But if it really made a dream move, we have a gap up here at 56. If this printed at 56, man, I'm really going to hate myself for all the trims that we've had on this. But we will try and hold a piece for the dream. I promise there's not going to be an exit of the position until I am convinced that we have a true negative break, a true crack of this trend line. And we will play it out to the end. The same way we did with Ford. We held Ford we had trims in 15s. We held it all the ways from 15 all the ways back in. and we have a convincing negative break right here. But as long as it's holding this trend line, I will see this out to the end. Discover coming on into this 90 level. There were some gap fill buyers originally. Like I said, we were talking about it up here at 94. Drift will tell you, I've been very adamant that this is not going to be the low. It could be, but I'm pretty convinced that this is not going to be the low. And the reason why I can say that is because your strength is your house at the casino. The house at the casino is going to win majority of the time. If I was putting my money down on it, I had a gun to my head and somebody said, you got to make a choice right now. Is this going to be the low or not? If I had my life at stake, I'd have to go with the strength on this one. It looks like a short. It's already rejecting the levels. Uh, and and I would say that we have some reasonable levels that we can fall down into. I've said from the beginning, this isn't going to be a pretty start. Building that long at support level is a very hard thing to do. Yes, 90 is a monster level. That's why we started the position at 90s. We were actually trying to start this position off 100 flat, and this position would be played entirely different if we were right on the bid at 100 flat. Never came in. Never came in. Luckily, by the grace of God, uh, we get a gap down to these 90s where if this was just a slow churn to the downside, we probably would have bought right here. We probably would have bought this neckline. We probably would have tried, maybe that gap is filled, but mid 90s we have a gap here at 95s, and we have a gap here at 92.50s. The position would be played out entirely different. Looking at NVAX, we are catching a little bit of a bid here, starting candle number 3. So the same way that BGLC, we can go back and look at it. I would expect that you're going to catch some resistance in the middle of this red move, where if we mark the body lows of this green candle and maybe the wick tops of these two candles, I would expect some pressure in right here, candle number 3. So if this does turn red and come and give a true test down to these 9 flats, that is the wick high of when it really started getting going. I would expect some buying pressure to come in right there. And looking at BGLC, what are we looking like? Still setting up that flat top, but it does have a small stair step look. But look at this. At one point in time, this was a gapped up intraday, gave a nice green candle right to the previous lows, the lows of the body candles, the highs of this body candle. And then traded back down, and we had some tests down here. But you see it actually worked through those levels, traded back in, set a higher low, and now it's starting to set up this flat top at 140s. Given a sort of look for a channel break on a stair step also look, I would say this is flirting where this could easily go up and print for a day high break. But I'd say very similar setups, it's just different timing. Where a lot of times I didn't even take this into consideration. So let's remove everything from the chart, start fresh. When I get moves where BGLC, let's just compare the two, passes the rules for a bull flag. Let's clear the chart on this too. You get 3 candle moves, increasing volume, decreasing to the downside. You get some buyers holding the level. You confirm a higher low. Now when it takes out this high, I want to see the volume exceed right here. Now, for NVAX, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 consecutive green candles. I want to try and make that move into 3 candles. Now, it could easily build this sort of U shape and get going again. I'm not saying it can't do that, but if I wanted to make this into 3 candles, we got 4 candles here. If we go to that hour chart, you got a couple candles. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4. Look at this. Look at this bull flag right here. Perfect example. I hadn't even looked at it before I started explaining it. Look at this. Oh boy. Nice volume increase. You can see it. 1, 2, 3 candles of consolidation into a level. You got your 21. Now when it takes out this high, you want to see that volume increase above that large volume increase. Look at that. Boom. And then you get that second green candle. So now if this is a continuation play, I'm looking at this 1, 2, 3. This could easily be another 2.5 hours of consolidation back into this wick high right here, which is 854 to 868. I wouldn't be surprised if this pulled back into more of this middle of this green move right here. where we have 26 minutes left, I'd want to see if this is red candle number one. I want to see decreasing volume. The next candle decreasing volume as well, and then the volume can start picking up on that third candle, especially when you're looking at an hour chart. But if that starts building this bigger type of U shape, that's where I'd be looking for a test of this sort of flat top up here. If we get another leg up, we're going to be talking about tens. Uh, but a beautiful example of a bull flag utilizing your different levels of charts. I normally don't go underneath the 15 unless I'm looking at particular volume, but this is a significant green move that we had yesterday. It is reasonable to switch over to an hour chart and kind of condense that move in, where you have six 15-minute candles right here, a pullback. If you just switch to that hour chart, you can see it. It shows you the bullfight. It shows you the bigger picture, where you have a bunch of people that are trading off of 1-minute charts. Let's go to a 1-minute chart. How am I supposed to see any information here? It's like, how am I supposed to know? Oh, yep, this 8 level, which actually, off of 1 minute, I'd say this looks like a short. How can you possibly look at this 1-minute chart and say, yep, we're punching in off this 8? Yep. How can you look at this 1-minute chart and say, yep, we're punching in off a 7? It's giving up the lows on this. It looks terrible. How can you possibly look at this? And you could say, okay, we're setting a higher low right here. Let's punch in. I just don't see it. Looking at the 1-minute chart right here, you have no volume. I really just don't see it. Which you can use a 1 minute to see certain levels of volume. I'm okay with that. But I just don't see it. I do not see it. And maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I just am just some average Joe that doesn't get it. But it does not make sense to me. I don't know, Drift. Maybe you can tell me I'm talking crazy right now. I don't know. Maybe I'm losing my mind. What do I know, right? I only have a few viewers every day. I don't know nothing. I don't have 100,000 subscribers. I don't know what I'm talking about. I only got 96 subscribers. I'm an idiot. I don't know. GM pulling back into the level, kind of giving up that trend line that we had set. Looking at the daily chart, strength still isn't quite there, but giving a little bit of a slope up. We're okay. We're really wanting this to come down into the 32s. We only have a couple fills, but it is what it is. I'm really still focused on this BGLC. I do think that this has potential, and especially, we got 4 hours left on today's candle. If it leaves any type of close above these 120s, you are starting to get a slope up where all would take. And like I said, we said it when we were already at 4 million in volume, which this candle was 8 million. We said, hey, we're already halfway. It's already giving you the look like, hey, we're picking up the volume. We have 4 hours left, 3 hours, 50 minutes left, and this volume is picking up. I mean, there's a lot of positives to like about this, and you can see it setting up this flat top where all it would take is if it came back down in, we originally just said, hey, this wick top right here. Well, now looking at the information that we have, you can see the buying pressure that's coming in right there. You have that false washout bottom right there, if you're calling this wick low bottom, and it holds above that and closes as a green candle. So maybe if this comes back into 130s, we can average it and then maybe try 129s as well, which is the body candles right here, and then maybe a false wick below that 34 into 25s. We can have our out underneath 20, so we're giving our initial entry at 32s, 12 cents of risk. So that's already telling me, hey, size accordingly. 12 cents of risk for a $1.30 stock is $7, so or 7%. So size accordingly. But I do think that there is potential with this, and if this volume really continues holding this price level, probably doesn't have a trend line like that, but I would actually want to set it sort of like this and map it out like, okay, let's mark those wick lows, potential trend line in the works here, potential wedge pattern in the works as well, which, the higher it leans up like this, the more it just looks like a flat top that's building right there, where all it takes is a little bit of price action over those 143s, which is the body candle, That was when we seen a little bit of selling pressure as well. All it would take is the right short position to be in off this 140 level, and boom, take that level out. You get a clean 150 break. The volume starts picking up again, and before you know it, you're up here testing these wick highs from the initial move. We're looking at this pullback as well. That is your final retracement right there at that 150. So potential wicks and false wick tops right there coming in, and it could easily wick back in. But if it pans out, you could easily be looking for this to print up to some of these gaps. Which, looking at my second extension, meets in right at a gap fill. Your next extension off that meeting up at this high, which pulling that's the IPO price, and your full extension not quite there, but no, 4 meets in. I'd say you have some resistance there. If it wanted to put some false wicks, you have a gap fill up here at 550 or 530. One day, I'm guessing you're referring to the size of the channel. It takes time to build a channel. Yes, it's very difficult to do, which is why, when we start picking up, and some people start seeing some of the potential that I feel is there. I'm not going to say that the potential is there. I believe that the potential is there, which is why I try to be here every single day. Uh, but I will say that when that day starts getting closer and closer, you're going to see me start, I don't know if you were here earlier, but I think one of the best investments you can make is investing in yourself. And the next investments we're putting into ourselves is you're going to get a face cam. We're going to upgrade the computer. We're going to, maybe try and get it to where when I take a position, it shows right on my chart where I buy and sell. I think that is something that I enjoy watching when I'm watching other people. Is seeing exactly where they took that fill, exactly where they took that out, disclosing. Like Hal has his where he is a Scooter Academy guy. It took him at least a year. Some people it takes 5 years before getting traction. Yeah, I completely agree. And a lot of that traction where you see some of these bigger YouTube channels is they, all in all, I'll call it the way that I see it. It's probably not accurate, but a lot of people built their channels in that COVID year where, they bought some bogus company and just held it for just whether it's a publicity stunt or whatever the case may be, and they got bailed out on a fluke type of scenario, which I'd love to see them start from scratch and do it over again. It would be very, very interesting. I think AMTV guy took at least 5 years before seeing a return. I believe it. It is a difficult thing to do. Oh man, this BGLC is really going to put me in a bind right here. I mean, this is a beautiful setup. Beautiful setup. Really testing this flat top. It's getting to the point where NVAX looks like it's going to need some time. We talked about it pushing up to the bottom of the green candle, top of this move. It's already wicking into that. Let's see it pull back into 9. See if 9s can hold. If it wants to pull back into this this initial area, I think this is where we're talking about reloads. So we can think about it there. Our first print on the day came in at 870. We were very patient, so even pulling back into these 860s, I would say that is below our trims for the day. So we have 8 trims on the day. No, 9 trims on the day. Excuse me. We did get that 960. I'd say that was pretty lucky right there. But I would say that we can give this some time to breathe, and if it gets exhaustive and comes back down to these 850s, we can think about it there. But looking at this BGLC, this is a really good look. Really good look. I like this type of setup. I would maybe think about it. We talked about this wick top. I don't know if that's going to come on in. If this closes as a candle like this, we might need to force ourselves in at 137s. But let's go see what the tape's looking like here. Made out very good on NVAX today, so I'm feeling good about taking a trade on a volatile stock. And we have a tight spread, 141 on the bid, 142 on the ask. Even. We got 12 lots on the bid, 10 on the ask. So, still need some time. Let's see this candle close, and let's see if we can pull back in to the middle of this move a little bit. Took out 42s, bids stacked on 42s immediately. Volume also picking up. We have a minute left. Tapping some of these 43s. Bid stacking. 16 lots. Man, multiple times I could have tried this entry. There we go. 21 on the ask. Let's see this push back down to those 38s. And I think we'll start our position off 38s. We're going to watch it, though. We're not going to put the order in. We want to watch and make sure it just doesn't boom straight down to like 32s. If we could start it at 32s, I'd feel a lot better there. There we go, 40s. 20 on the, there we go, 15 lots on 38s right here. We only have one lot. Took out that one lot off 40s very quickly. Stacking though. So let's just get a small start to this position. Nothing big here at all. But we're gonna get ready to mark it in. We are hovering over this buy button. We're gonna see if we can get into those 30s one more time. The candle is closing as a nice green candle. So let's see the open of this red candle come right in just quickly right there. And as soon as we see 30s on the bid and maybe 140s on the ask, we're gonna try it. And then we'll get ready to add a little bit more size as this, if a red candle starts coming in, we're going to try it. But a nice stair step look. You can see the W pattern with the higher lows coming in. Nice increase of volume. Everything that I'd want to see right here. 141s on the bid. Intra gap up to 42s. I'd expect 41s to print here at least a little bit. I'd say a notable move is this SQ is now green. You can see gap down, retraces up, fills the gap, sells off, set a higher low, and now trading back on top of this this trend line that I'd say is not set perfect. I'd set it more like that. Let's look back at BGLC. There's 41s. So let's see it come down just a little bit more. Oh my gosh, we're in a bind here. We're in a bind. We gotta punch in. This is a nut up or shut up candle right there. So we have a small fill, that small fill that we were looking for. Higher, literally the highest point possible right here. So probably gonna wick back in, but like I said, very small position. But when it puts that nut up or shut up candle, it's for that first fill. We feel we have to try it right here, just in case this wants to really get going. 80 lots. Oh my gosh, it switched my ticker. BGLC. 64 lots on the bid, 60 lots on the ask. Oh, took out some of that ask though. Here we come. We have 49 lots on the bid at 43s right here. This is in washout top territory, but it could easily break out. I see NVAX right at that 9 flat level. Okay, here we go. Down in the 42s. We're gonna put that same small size order off of limit order 140s. And see if we can add just a wee bit of size to it right here. BGLC. Just small size here. We're not doing it. There's 140's got us a fill there. Beautiful. So let's you know, just another small order size. We're gonna keep these order sizes small. When we feel we're in an area where we can really try it, we're gonna go off of 138 here and see if we can get another fill. Bid holding those 140s now. There's 138s. We're going to put that order in right now. We'll see if we can get a little bit better than 38s. BGLC. So if this were to start wicking or coming down a little bit more, I like this 132s. But I would like to see it hold this 138.
So let's see where that last fill came in at. We did get 36s there, so that helped us out a little bit. Uh, but still a little bit scary that those 144s wicking into the top of those wicks. Doesn't need to pull back in before this makes a move. Maybe it does, but it's wicking the 138s now. We have 14 lots. Let's just get us to a whole level right here. These 38s is what we wanted. So now that we can see that wick of buying, let's try it right here. So that should have gave us 39s. We were just a little bit late to it, and we did get 39s there. So I like the position size that we have right now. We're gonna let it breathe, and it's still not the most amount of size, but I think these 132s, we're gonna try it. BGLC. So we're gonna get ready to add a little bit more size here. It's coming on down. It's all right. Not a perfect start to the position. When you're flirting with these breakouts, sometimes it's very difficult to do. I would have liked to see it hold this. We still have 10 minutes left, so it can easily wick back above these 137s. 10 lots on 35s. Sixteen lots on 35s. Able to stack on these 36s briefly, just briefly. Nothing too crazy. And there's 38s. 11 lots stacked on 36. As it's continuing to wick and try and hold that level, I'm tempted to punch in a few more shares here. But if we do get a push up to those 47s, definitely going to be an area where we can think about trimming. We feel we're a little bit late to the party. Late to the party as in it gave the move already. It already gave the move over the previous day as well. So we feel we're a little bit late to the party. But looking at the daily chart, we're still early to the party in terms of the full potential of this trade. Uh, but volume, we do like the setup right here as well. But doesn't need to pull back more before it makes a bigger move. Maybe it does. Maybe it does. And there's 35. Let's see if we have 31 lots on 34s. Let's try a little bit more size right here, and give this a true chance. So BGLC and 32s is going to be that next area that we're going to see if we can get this red candle down here to these 30s, where that is going to be our last add, and we're probably going to give it a little bit underneath of 25s. I don't like this red candle look though, but we have 8 minutes for this to leave a wick. There's 33s coming in. 51 lots on 32s. Let's try some right here. 161 lots, 162 lots on the bid. Got eaten up quick, but it took out all that size on 135s as well. True battle taking place right here. Let's see where that fill came in, that last fill. We did get 132 halves. That's what we wanted. And just like that, wicked right back up to 37s. This is what we want to see right here. We want to see it hold 37s on this candle. Battle taking place. You want to talk about a battle taking place? This is it right here. 150 lots off 35s. Let's see if this can catch some pressure to the upside. $148 lots still. Got 7 lots on the ass, so a big difference. That doesn't mean that's guaranteed. It's taken out some of that size. Now 90 lots on 35s, and it took out 35s, and there are 31s coming on in very quickly. We're going to give this one last try if it gets down into those 130s, and then we're going to get ready to put an out for this name. There's 130s. 129s. This is going to be our last ad, and we are going to get ready to trim this name, BGLC. Or not trim, we're going to be ready to cut this name. Man, that candle is not good. That candle is not good. We're going to run that true stop at 120s. We'll give it a chance. Wicking into that second level. We're in a standstill. I think we're going to commit to this and give it to that true 120. If it ends up stopping us out at 120s, you know, we'll take the loss on it. We knew that was a possibility from the get-go. We'll see if it can catch a bid. We're back up to 132s. Let's see where that last fill came in at. We got 129 halves on that last fill. So nothing guaranteed by any means here. But if this wants to work out for us, we think that this can still print days high. $51 lots on 31s, so decent size, trying to protect our long position here. Still the same 50 lots. I'd like to see some more running through the tape here, but not seeing it as of right now. Chipping away some of those 32s. We only have 4 lots on 32s. The same 50 lots on 31s. Could go either way. Was able to stack over those 32s just briefly. Nothing too exhaustive there. Able to take out those 31s, and here it's 29s coming on in. Oh boy, we did it to ourselves. We did it to ourselves here. Come on. Bid stat or ask is stacking at these 130s. I was able to take him out briefly. Thank the Lord. Could go either way still. There we go. Taking out 32s, slightly stacked above it. Now giving it back up again. Bid stacked on 32s, now stacked on 33s. We have 28 lots to break through at 34s. Took out 20 of them. We still have 2 minutes to maybe close. This can still close back up above 37s. 31 lots on 34s to get through. I would expect some tough levels to still break through. So just because it's wicking into this 34 briefly doesn't mean that it can't. We are getting red volume increase. That is scary. You do have a little wick of buying though. Still could go either way. I see NVAX still trying to hold nines. The price moved up to 33s, but uh, it was able to take out the bid, and the bid's at 32s now. Bid stacked on 34s. Is he going to be able to hold though? We need to see some more buying coming on in. Alright, 9 seconds left of this candle. So it is leaving a wick. Let's see this next candle turn green, and we can think about just cutting this at 38s. I think if it gets to 38s, we are in the green. We could we should be getting the open of the next candle. Just need to wait for something to roll through the tape. Still, with it leaving this wick on this candle, it's still kind of holding a decent little trend line. So a little bit of hope. It wasn't able to push back up to those 37s. HKD, nice little pump today. We said it looked like garbage. I still think it does look like garbage. But pushing back over, more of a legitimate volume push on the name. BGLC. NVAX solidifying that those nines, but I still think that this needs some more time to pull back in. Just no volume coming through the tape right now on BGLC. Waiting for the open of this next candle to show us that, hey, we can make a green move and get back over those 37s. We got 25 lots on the bid at 34s. Here we finally have the open of the next candle. Chipping away a few 34s there. That's all right. Took out the lots on 35s. Bid stacked on 35s. Only one lot for right now, but it is stacked on 35s. Getting closer. And it gave up 35s. 2 penny spread for the first time. So anybody's game to try and reclaim those 35s right here. Anybody's game. Could go either way. And the bid did stack one lot off 35s again. Let's see if it can take out 36s. And chipped away a few 36s there. Now only 7 lots on the ask. Now we have 10 lots stacked on 35s. So the longs trying to hold 35s. Now the The Bears taking over 35s, 5 lots on the ask. I would expect some pressure at these 38s. If we are at all worried about this position, we can think about cutting it, and it wouldn't be too bad right now. And there's 27s. Let's see if any bids or any size can stack here. Let's see if it can wick back up. But getting ready to cut this position. I don't even want to see 25s go on the tape. $21 lots at 30 or at 29s. Even a wick as low as 27s. $30 on 30s. Possibly a wick low. Hopefully a wick low right there. I do not want to see it give up that price right there. I want to see this candle hold 30s. The more it flirts with it, the more I would say, hey, you're looking for sort of a trend break right here. Back down to 28s. Our 25 is going to be able to hold here. A 3-penny spread. Some longs are jumping in. They're trying to hold this price. The more it looks like this, the more it looks like a short though. Kind of discrediting this trend line that we have set. Oh boy. Here's 26s. Let's just edit this and let's put a stop loss. 122. We're going for the stop. Gives back some gains on the day, but if 122 is print, I think we're not interested in holding it anyways. Thought we had the conviction here. Just kind of giving this red engulfing through the level. Let's move it down to 21s actually. We'll give it 21s. Nope, I lied. We're going to give it the true 20. That is what we wanted to give it from the beginning. So we'll give it those 20s right there. And we'll see if it can hold or not. It does not look good. It does not look like it's going to be able to hold. Still leaving that wick though. I still think that there is some hope that if these 25s can hold, we can get rid of this right here. We're not interested in adding any more. We're gonna just give it this true stop, and if it stops us out, it stops us out. Trying the whole 30s, 8 minutes left. We have 200 lots on 29s right here. That is decent protection. It's chipping away some of them. That would be 20,000 shares here at 29s. So if it's going to hold, I'd say that order is going to have to be the backbone of this potential hold here. Looking back at it, I'm not surprised to see rejection of this level. Where our original thesis was, hey, we need to come back and test down the 115 anyways. So maybe, you know what, some emotions get attached to me here, but we are still going to give it a chance. I would say that the longer it holds this 129 right here, the more I'd say it's going to take out those 200 lots, and that it's going to end up stopping us out. So if we wanted to save some price in there, it just took them out. So are we going to be able to, and I don't know if those went through the tape or not, but that guy out of the money, not a good winning formula. still trying to hold. 29s are again stacking. We have 6 minutes left in this candle. Let's see if we can get back above these 130s. It doesn't look the greatest. And here we did the bid stacked on these 130s again. So possible chance that this can hold. If this is just confirming a higher low right here, let's see if it can catch a bid and get back up towards this flat top where, you know, if the right person's in short right here, we could see an exhaustive move to the upside. And what did I get myself into, Drift? What did I get myself into? Did you see the insanity of the day on HKD? VFS and HKIT? Complete ludicrous. Um, yeah, HKD, I am seeing it has a nice pump. I didn't want to play around with it. I was just watching NVAX most of the day. But let's take a look at VFS. VinFast. Looks like continuation play. Uh, I'd say the volume increase over top of the initial move is a good look. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would have tried it even if it was on the watch. HKD, you know, I thought it looked like junk. You know, but now it is at a positive break. I'd say I wouldn't be surprised if it made a test up to 9. I'd say that is a level. The HKIT. HKIT. Intech Global on the daily. Nice continuation play. How about that positive break? Look at where this positive break comes at. As soon as you break that neckline. Boom. Right there. Beautiful look. Nice hold of the lows here at 425s. Nice bull flag continuation. There's your nut up or shut up candle. Well, this is a nut up or shut up candle. Here's your next nut up or shut up candle. And then wicking into the lows. Even though it trades sideways a couple days, as soon as it's trying to trade and hold above 10, potential nut up or shut up candle, you get the gap up, retraces right down to the gap. This day probably would have stopped you out if you were playing it, but ends up closing. I mean, this is an insane move. I agree. BGLC, you know, we talked about BGLC yesterday off of the one flat level. And of course, I wait till the frickin' time when it really starts getting volatile to the downside. 129 is my best fill, which is my biggest print. But I would say that there is a catalyst for this. There's your retracement. If this is building the flat top for an eventual break, we feel this is at the area where we're getting very close to that. But then looking at it from this perspective, the bear perspective, is your flat top is being built right at that last retracement. Is it going to be something that can break up, or is this something that needs to test back down to the trend line, which is where your resistance is at? So I'm really hating myself for not having this entry off this 115. We watched it at the very beginning of the live stream, but given the look, like maybe it's a good idea if I just cut this. But we are going to give it a chance. Whether we end up stopping out or not, very, very fun day. We had 9 prints on NVAX, which, you know, if it does want to hold, I don't know what happened to my indicator. Double EMA. Let's adjust that to 34. Make it green. I would say pulling right back into the level. I'd say the hour chart is your best look here. You get 3 candle moves on increased volume, 3 pullback candles decreasing volume. When you take out the high, nice volume increase. Our next level that we're looking for is 10s. We have a 960, a 948, and a 940 print. So all this is over $80 investment in the SGI with supplies, VFS with magnets. You know, I normally don't get involved into the catalyst on some of these floater or these high volume movers or whatever you want. Oh, BGLC testing up. Looking at the hour candle, you can see the flat top that's being built right here. If we can get this to keep printing up higher, we do think it's possible. It's trying to wick into the level. But to the news, you know, if you're looking at a book of liquidity, if more liquidity is bought than sold, the price is going to go up. So yeah, some insane moves between the three. And of course, I'm picking one that, of course, is probably going to end up stopping me out. We're going to take a hit, give back some gains. But, you know, it is what it is. We did have some ads in BAC today, Hal. 28.54 ad, and we were on the tape at 28.50s. Just didn't get the fill. If it wants to pull back in more, we can play this trend line. But after that, 28.28 gap. 28.28 gap, and then also the 28.07 gap is going to be have some orders there for the name. BGLC, 13 seconds left on this candle. Still trying to hold that level. Is it going to be something that can give a curl? I doubt it. Selling pressure into the back half of the candle looks like it is something that is going to end up stopping us out. But we'll see. We'll see what this open in the next candle looks like. You know, we might just think about cutting this name if it gets up to 134s. Well, yeah, that's I mean that's what we got for the day. I wouldn't be surprised to see there was decreased volume. So maybe if it does start giving that curl, maybe these 144s is an area. But I am starving. I think it is getting close to that time. Right now we just have the hard stop in at 120s. But yeah, I'm not sure about this as much as I was. I'll start touching banks in October. Yeah, I'm not really worried about the time that I'm going to touch them. I'm just going to respect the level and go from there. I'm not going to pinpoint a month of when I want to buy them when I'm looking to hold them for probably the next 5-10 years. But we'll see how it goes. I'm not trying to get a perfect entry. I'm just trying to respect the position and see where it goes from there. BGLC really giving the look like, hey, we want to trade down further. Yeah, I'm just not sure. It looks like Warner Bros. Giving up the ghost a little bit as well. I'd say down here we're looking for a false break of those 50s. So those 1250s are probably going to give us a print today. But we will see. We will see. But all in all, I'm going to probably stay true to this stop and go get some lunch. And I got a job out of town today, so I don't know how early I got to be in. So I also got to figure that out as well. That's going to call it for the stream today. NVAX, I'm pretty content with just holding the position that we got. We're expecting to come into these 850s. That's all right. We're going to keep respecting this level. If it wants to give a print up towards those 10s, we'll take it. If not, so be it. But that's the NVAX position. And that is going to call it for the live stream today. Dividends look sweet right now. Edgar Romero. What's going on, man? I haven't seen you here in a while. It's good to have you back. I'm more inclined to try and hold off for the stream before I close it now. So we'll give it a little bit of time. I mean, there's nothing really that we're on. This BGLC is gonna stop us out for some money. We're giving back a few gains today, but you're back. Good to have you back, brother. Unfortunately, I'll give it a little bit of time. We'll watch this BGLC a little bit, but it's gonna stop us out, which is too bad. We thought we had some pretty good conviction here, but rejecting that final retracement right there. Uh, some clear resistance. I'd expect a pull back to this trend line where I think that is where the true entry should have been in the first place when we were watching it right at the open. But I mean, what do you do? What do you do? But no volume. If it can test back up to here, these 144s, I would say I would be very bullish on it. But it has this red move that's going to have to fight through, which doesn't look good. GM looking like it's going to off the trend line on red engulfing. We'll see if this can come back into these 32s. We might think about another small add. But looking at the daily, we really want to play this trend line at 32 flat. Also, keep an eye on he. Yeah, we can go take a look at he real quick. I'd say I'm gonna play it just like I play anything else that's giving up the bottoms like this. Is we're gonna wait for strength to get at least back over that oversold area, negative 100. So maybe we can get another leg down, which this would probably keep sloping up a little bit. If we end up missing our entry, it does have a gap fill at these 14s that, if you're looking at running it from 13 to 14, have some outs and then have some outs up at 1450, that maybe not a bad play, but yeah, just gonna play this accordingly. I'm not looking to jump into it too early. Maybe I can get it down here in the fives. Who knows? Nice bottom right above 10. Nice bottom right above 10 until that turns into a flat bottom break, and before you know it, you get a gap down. Who knows how far it could go, but with this strength right here, looking at the strength when it was negative 750, if you get a big gap down like this, this was when it was at 20. If you're just waiting for strength, you're still saved quite a bit of capital. I'm just gonna be patient with this one. If it gave an extreme move back up to these lows, that is a hefty return. But I want to see this break down, and then once it shows me that strength is getting closer, then we can maybe think about trying it. But looking at he, where is it at? I thought we had this on the watch. There it is. He. 6 million in volume. Trading around 13 could be something. The last 4 weeks I've been on training at work on first shift. My training is over for now. I'm back to the market. That's what I like to hear. I'm glad that the training aspect is over. I'm sure that is sort of a relief to have that out of the way. I've been through a couple different training. For this job that I have now, I've been in kind of getting past that training phase as well. So it's good to have you back. Something new to the stream that you probably don't remember is we have stocks for now. We do own every single one of these except for Neo. Neo is the one outlier that we don't own. Some of them aren't working the greatest for us. Some of them are working decent for us. Vale, we were looking for some pullbacks down into these 1240s, maybe the 1225s or 1230 gap. Didn't get the pullback we were looking for. PayPal. Man, we never got 57 halves. Looking for this to pull back in, give us some levels to trade off of. BTI had a few ads, playing the level here at 3170s and also getting filled on the gap. Just for some ads, the position's still in the red. It's not perfect. Devon is the oil play that we're looking at, but the catalyst for oil is I think you got to switch over to the weekly chart. The weekly chart gives you the best look. I don't have my downtrend set in, but you can see the pull. You can see pullback candle number 1, pullback candle number 2. Next week, if we see oil trading in off of these wick highs right here, off 77s, call it 75 to 78, we are going to be chipping into some oil plays and seeing where that can go for us. But I think oil looks reasonable. Nasdaq short, a nice three candle move on nice volume. If this pulls back in anywhere into the 18 halves, 1825s, I think that is where we're going to be trying to get some ads. And looking at the daily chart, you got the positive break, trading back in, trying to hold these previous highs at 1970. It doesn't need to pull back into these 18s that we marked, which is also a neckline break. Before we went on our vacation, we said, hey, for some reason, the buyers are buying it up above this gap. We get the gap up before we left on vacation. We said, hey, the buyers are still holding it above this gap up. And sure enough, market came in a little bit, but looking at the NASDAQ, I'd say it has a tight channel, could easily break and test up back to these highs, but looking at the weekly chart, strength is still there. So by no means, just because it's pulled back like this, I don't think that it's okay to say, yep, the top is in. We're going to be all the ways back down to this flat top. I think that's a little bit extreme as of right now. But that's pretty much an update that we have for you. I'd say you could say this is a trend change on the NASDAQ, and you could say this is a trend change on oil, as you probably have a downtrend, so a pullback into those mid 70s. Is it going to retest those tops and sort of build this U shape? I think we have a couple weeks to kind of decipher whether that's going to be the case. But yeah, other than that, just staying true to some of these positions. Discover Financial. I look at this 90 flat level as a monster level, but by no means do I think this is the bottom. Pays a dividend tomorrow. I don't think this is the bottom. I said it when it was at 94. I said it when I bought shares off of 90 flat that this isn't going to be the bottom. But we're going to size accordingly this position. If we get down into these lower 80s, I'm going to be playing that position down here accordingly. We're going to keep sizing into this position. This is one of the long-term plays that we're really been adding to over the last couple days. But other than that, as of right now, still holding this BGLC. Probably about an even trade right now based off the size we put in off 129s. But I think that we're going to end up getting stopped out. If I wanted to, I could just go cut it right now. Very light volume. I'd expect this red move to have some pressure. And looking at 34s, I would say 34 puts it a little bit in the green. Nothing to brag about. It has a chance to set a confirmed higher low here. But I just don't know if it's going to be able to get the job done. I would feel a lot more comfortable if this would have just pulled back into those 115s. But until that comes, I just don't know. All in all, the moral of the story for today is that we showed really good resilience on this NVAX trend line. Kind of giving me the feel of that forward position where we were playing that trend line. We almost got stopped out. We were kind of scratching our head like, man, what is this going to be able to hold or not? But we had some really good prints on the name, and we do have top wick print at a 960. We got a 948. We got 940s. We got 920s. We got 915s. Plenty of fills. If this wants to pull back in, our first fill on the day of 9 fills. We had 9 fills on NVAX today. Was at 870. So if it does pull back into this gap fill in the middle of this green move, we are going to be reloading it, and we are going to be reloading the wick top from yesterday, which called at 850. Disney still trying to hold these 85s. The more it trades at 85 right here, the more it gives me the feel of, hey, this is going to be a flat bottom break. Look for a flat bottom break and then a retest of those 85s and then continuation to the downside. We're not going to be selling Disney. We're not. If this support level does want to hold for us, we'll be looking for this to start giving that U-shaped look and curl to the upside, where 87 is that level that's going to need to take out first. But until it does that, we're probably not doing anything else with the position on this today. And that's everything for stocks for today. Nothing else that we really had to talk about. And in terms of just the top movers on the day, there wasn't anything, maybe you could say that this HKD, but going from negative 550 in strength all the way to a positive break, it was something that we didn't really want to try anyways. You know, maybe this trades into the middle of the green move, and we're talking about it at 650 later on in the week. You know, that could easily give you a return, Hal. Looking over towards it, I definitely think that if everything gets worked out, that those shares could easily be good shares bought. Uh, but looking at the 15-minute, you know, you got a nice slow churn to the upside. It kind of gave up this trend line, so you know, if it popped up, uh, this is a sort of a flat bottom break. At wicks below it tries to hold. Well, then on the retracement up, it tests up to that area. So if it does get over top of this, you know, call it 1450, you could see it catch a bid and maybe get up to the top end of the 16. You know, the next area of consolidation that it had was these lows at 1875. So that'd be a pretty good hit. Just building an entry level position. I think there's worse strategies to go about for sure. But this 12 flat gap also is some protection. Trying to hold these lows. Kind of a false break to the downside, reclaimed it early in the day, so that's a good look there. But aside from that, I mean, that's everything that I really had. So I don't mean to end the stream right when you get here, Romero, but I'm starving. I need to get some food, and I gotta go into work today at some point. So that's gonna call it for the day. I look forward to seeing you guys same time tomorrow. But gonna stay true to this stop loss. We have BGLC. Probably not gonna work out for us. Doesn't look good. But we'll see you guys here on the channel tomorrow. Appreciate you guys for tuning in.